Okay, alhamdulillah rabbil alameen. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala ali Muhammad. كما صليت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد. اللهم بارك على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما باركت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد. Okay. So we're on Surah Al-Falaq, and we finished Kalimat Al-Jadida. We reached Aqada, Ya'qidun. We said Aqada means to tie, like to tie a knot. And Rabata is similar to that, also to tie. So then we move on from there to the hadith. كان رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم يقرأ سورة الفلق وسورة الناس قبل أن ينام. That the Messenger of Allah would recite Surah Al-Falaq and Surah Al-Nas before going to sleep. So this is one of the etiquettes of going to sleep. There are many etiquettes of going to sleep, and this is one of them. So this simply says that he used to read them. There are other narrations that say he would read and blow the moisture after the reading into his hands and rub his body with it as a form of ruqya. And the time when we sleep, we have spiritual vulnerabilities and physical vulnerabilities because we're completely out. So it is good for us in those times of vulnerability to give ourselves protection. And the best form of protection is not security or an alarm system or cameras. Rather, it is the words of Allah, because Allah is the one who protects. So these last two surah of the Quran are called Al-Mu'awwadatan, which are the two things that give you protection. And the whole thing is seeking protection from Allah, as we read. So, قُلْ أَعُوذُ بِرَبِّ الْفَلَقِ, say, I seek protection from the Lord of Falaq. Whatever Falaq means, its Lord is Allah. مِنْ شَرِّ مَا خَلَقَ, from any evil that the things that He created bring about. And again, this is something good for us to consider, that Allah creates good and creates evil. Evil does not operate on its own. It's under the control of Allah. So if anything has harm, we want to ask Allah to protect us from its harm. وَمِن شَرِّ غَاسِقٍ إِذَا وَقَبَ, and from the evil of the dark, when it hides, or when it disappears. And we said that Ghasiq is known as the night and known as the moon. There's different narrations related to what is Ghasiq. وَمِن شَرِّ النَّفَّاثَاتِ فِي الْعُقَدِ, and also seeking protection from the evil of the sorcerers who blow into the knots. And we said that's a form of magic. And finally, and from the evil and the harm of a jealous and envious person as they act out their jealousy and envy. So, min sharri ma khalaq. So Allah created everything and He gave it the capacity to do good or to do harm. And we ask Allah to protect us from the harm that is within the things He created. This comes up quite a bit whenever we hear dua. So the Prophet ﷺ, when the wind blows, would ask Allah of the good that it brings, and he would seek protection from the harm that it may bring. Everything can bring good and harm. That's the same prayer you say when you have a new vehicle, or in their time, mode of transport, an animal. When you get married, you want to ask Allah from the blessings of this person, and you want to ask Allah to protect you from their harm. You're like, no, I don't think he can do any harm. Yes, anyone has the potential to do bad. So you want to ask Allah for the good of people and seek protection from the harm. Again, غاسق إذا وقب is something that is beyond us because it brings things with it that we don't even see. So here we're asking Allah to protect us from the seen and from the unseen. وَمِن شَرِّ النَّفَّاثَاتِ فِي الْعُقَدِ, that's something that is tangible, magic spells and the magicians. وَمِن شَرِّ حَاسِدٍ إِذَا حَسَدٍ, also that's something that people do to one another. So the Prophet ﷺ would say this before going to sleep. It's good to incorporate this etiquette into our bedtime etiquette. You know, some people have a bedtime etiquette of like dimming the lights or burning incense or burning a candle, or, you know, taking a shower or working out or drinking hot chocolate, right? People have different things. You hear about them or you read about them or you see them. Well, the etiquette of the believer is to do the adhkar before going to sleep. Did we speak about etiquettes of sleeping before? A long time ago? Huh? Yeah, so just again a quick recap. It's good to make wudu, and when we when we get into our bed, to make dhikr and to ensure that there is nothing there, but even if there is something that we can't see, to say Bismillah so it doesn't harm us. There's a narration that says, you know, to move the blanket 3 times, or to kind of like, what is this action? Dust it, kind of like dust it off 3 times. Sleeping on our right side, sleeping while facing the Qibla. The Prophet's way of sleep is to sleep on the floor. Having our right hand under our right cheek. So a lot of people sleep on their stomachs or on their backs, rather sleeping on the side is the sunnah. Making the adhkar. Some of the righteous would also say doing introspection right before going to sleep about how did your day go, your behavior, what you said, how you acted.
When you say sleep facing the Qibla, like, do you mean like your face is?
Your whole body. So the Qibla is that direction, I sleep this way.
Oh.
And my body is laying and the whole body is facing that direction.
So which one is more preferred, sleeping on your right side or facing the Qibla?
Both. So you have to do some rearrangement of the house. But of course, sleeping on your right side if you can face the Qibla. Because let's say the Qibla is on your left side, what you gonna do? Sleep on the left side? You shouldn't sleep on the left side. And one reason you shouldn't sleep on the left side is because you would be putting a lot of pressure on your heart, which is very amazing actually. But on the right side, it allows the heart to rest a bit because it's suspended. Walaikum assalam. Yeah, there are some other etiquettes, but those are some of the things that come to mind now. معاني الكلمات. وعليكم السلام ورحمة الله وبركاته. By the way, I was thinking yesterday about the people that watch us live. Now, I don't know all the names. I only know the names of the people who type in the chat box. So it's good for you guys to let us know who you are, just to identify yourself. So I don't think you're a genie, and so Iman doesn't think you're a federal agent. وَأَحْسَنَ اللَّهُ إِلَيْكِ. So I was wondering if you could comment about the etiquette of accepting invitations in Islam. Is it true that we are encouraged to accept invitations when we receive them? Well, it all depends on the type of invitation. So somebody invites me to a hookah club, I have to reject that invitation. Someone invites me to go to a bar, I will reject that invitation. The invitation specifically that the one that has the highest emphasis is invitation to the walima. And again, you got to be careful there. This is not a wedding invitation, because wedding and walima are not the same exact thing. So a walima, and again, the invitation must not include anything that's displeasing to Allah. If something is displeasing to Allah, you should not be making it into that place, because then you would be witnessing to falsehood. The other thing that you would be invited for, so usually those are called the occasions of Islam. So walima and aqiqah, those are feasts that we invite people over in our time of joy, so they can also enjoy with us. So when we get married, we invite people, and it's mostly to make the announcement to our community and to seek their prayers, so they make dua for us, they don't jinx us, which is the opposite of what happens in weddings. In weddings, everybody's hating on the bride. Either she's ugly or she's pretty. Either way, she's doomed. Damned if you do and damned if you don't. And of course, there's a lot of problems there because of a lot of people, they want to have free mixing and they want to showcase the wife to everybody. And in some cultures, the wife has to dance so she can tell the whole community how good of a dancer she is. And of course, none of that stuff is from Islam. So walima, according to Islam, we would have to accept the invitation to a walima. And aqiqah is when we have a newborn, we do the same thing. We slaughter an animal and we invite people to come and partake in the feast, in the meal. And also we want, the desire is that they make dua for us and for the newborn. So of course, people in this culture, they have baby shower, they have wedding shower, they got all these showers. And they don't take showers, at least not ghusl showers. And then they see, mashallah, they have so many occasions. They have shadi and they have mendi and they have walima and some things in between. I just learned a word that like your friends have a party for you. What is that called? Darkal? Doki? Dohoki, yes. Of course, a lot of these things are costly as well, and they have a lot of issues, I think, but nobody consults with me, so you don't need to share my opinion with anyone.
So is wedding music being played at a walima enough grounds to reject an invitation?
If you believe that music is displeasing to Allah, then yes. It would not be a walima, so that's why I said it the Desi way, walima, because walima is supposed to be extremely simple, and unfortunately people think that marriage means wedding. So many people are under that impression. A wedding is not from Islam. And the celebration where women sing and dance, that's for women only. Men don't do that. And they should definitely not be together. But, people mix a lot of the cultural practices with each other, and they think that it's part of Islam. But it's sad, like recently a young sister wants to get married, and her mom told her, well, you can't, because you can't have a wedding right now. And she's like, because the wedding is what proves that you got married. So she wants to get married so she doesn't commit sin. But the mom is like, no, you can't do that right now. You should just fast. That's the solution that people have. A young brother also in chaplaincy last year, he informed me in his culture, his parents told him, you have to have $100,000 in your bank account to get married. Why? Because of the wedding hall. It's all about other people. It has nothing to do with the person themselves. The wedding itself costs God knows how many thousands of dollars, because we have to have a hall and we have to have all that stuff. And so many people have to be invited, and people come from overseas and people come from locally, and it's preferred for you to buy their tickets. Just some really insane stuff. And then I don't think people will be too interested in getting married if it's such a burden. Why would we even do it? So then she says, how about if I invite you to a dinner to celebrate the crowdfunding winner this year? Is this the type of invitation that would be encouraged to accept?
Is that Maryam?
Yes, it's Maryam.
Oh my gosh.
I don't know. So, because I don't know. So I don't know the answer to that. But I think they organize this to have the students and their families. I don't know that it's to celebrate the winner this year. I don't know that. I didn't get that memo, so I don't know what you guys got. But I was just sent an invitation. It didn't say anything. Well, I didn't open the invitation, so maybe if I opened it, it would say what's in it. It says to celebrate the winner.
Let me just read it. It says to celebrate a successful round of fundraising.
Yeah, that's not the winner. That's everyone, to celebrate everyone's effort. That's what I understood out of it, is that this is to celebrate whoever participated in this, and to show I believe the board of directors, to show their appreciation for the students and their families and whoever supported. I don't know that there's anything about a winner. Would we be encouraged, Islamically? I don't know if we're Islamically encouraged to attend that. Personally, I think I would be encouraged to attend it simply because I'm part of this institution. A lot of times you do things for institutional purposes, not necessarily for personal reasons. So I told you guys before, they have this public Facebook page with my face on it. The only reason I accepted that is for institutional reasons. That supposedly is something that the marketing team has. Okay, they can do it. I hate pictures, and I don't like to tell the world what I do in my lectures, but that's what they want. So on my personal page, I don't have any of my programs. I don't share anything that I do. I typically just share other people's works if I find some benefit in them. So are we encouraged? I would say yes, we probably are encouraged to show our dedication and we kind of spoke about this in the picnic, where we said if we're a part of an institution and we believe that we're learning and benefiting from it, part of gratitude is to see how it is that we can help and support. So I would consult the ones who invited you. Those are the people to talk to. It's like, do you guys encourage us? I think they invited you to encourage you to come. So with that intention, if we're trying to support an institution of learning, and we are learning Islam, and we are trying to maintain this program for not just ourselves, but even other people that we may not even know, but we want them to also benefit like we have benefited, then I think it's definitely very encouraged. I did not know that there's a particular winner to this. So that's my take on the crowdfunding thing. What day is it?
Saturday.
This Saturday? What time?
I think at 5.
5 o'clock?
I think so.
Okay. That's wonderful. So another Saturday bites the dust. That's how my weekend goes. You asked me about how my weekend went? That's how it goes. Yeah, I was supposed to go to prison this weekend, but I have to cancel on the brothers because there's 3 events that day after I teach.
Yeah, it's at 5 p.m.
5 p.m. Okay. Yeah, but again, if someone has a reason why they don't want to show up, you have a valid excuse. You don't have to show up. If you hate our guts, I don't know if that's a valid excuse. What's the location? Maz? Maz. So if you don't like Islamic Chinese food, you're allergic, I don't think you have to come. But if I don't know why a person would not show up. If you have some concerns, it's good to show those concerns, and then I can tell you. But I don't believe that there is anything that's going to take place that is prohibited. I hope not. Hopefully our standard is that we will not participate in things that I hope we don't. May Allah forgive us. I mean, I mentioned to you guys how some of those banquets I attended, it's a disaster. That's why I will not do it again, because me being there is a sign of approval. So I told the other imams, I said, you guys should really consider not being there. But unfortunately, again, for institutional reasons, people will still go to these events. But if we were going to put Islam first and recognize our roles as representatives of this tradition, whether we're students or we're teachers, then we should be very careful where we are seen. Because you being seen somewhere to people is like, well, if so-and-so is there, they're a hafiz of the Quran, it must mean it's not that bad. Right? That's how people operate. So you have to be very careful in how you behave. That's why early on we spoke about the etiquettes of the students of knowledge, and some of the statements don't really make sense to people, but it said the student of knowledge should not be like other common people. When they laugh, they should not be laughing. When they play around, they shouldn't be playing. This doesn't mean you can't have fun, but you cannot be like others. There has to be something that distinguishes you, that people look at you and they're like, this is the standard of what God-fearing means. Unfortunately, we have a culture right now of being so relevant that religious people have to sin to become relevant. So we have to tell others, yeah, I listen to your music, and I've been to your concert. And it's like, why are you exposing yourself so I could be relevant? What are you calling to? Are you calling to Allah or calling to yourself? Because if you're calling to Allah, that's not what the prophets did. The Prophet ﷺ never told people, look at me, man, back in the day I used to get drunk and wasted like the rest of Quraysh. He never touched liquor. Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. And that's our role model. So a lot of people talk about this. This is key, by the way, right now, and even sometimes I may fall into this, where people are like uneasy. Well, we can't talk about women's issues. We should have a woman speaker talk about women's issues. Because you don't know the woman's experience. If you have knowledge, you can talk about any topic. It's like you can't talk about those people. That's straight identity politics, when they say you can't talk about this because you don't have the experience. So the Prophet ﷺ, did he not talk about women's issues? Who is the teacher of women's issues in our religion? I don't think he was a woman, right? Now, this does not mean he did not facilitate and his wives did not participate in the teaching, dissemination of knowledge, but the key is qualification, not identity. That's the key. So like someone may say, you don't have the right to talk about the Palestinian issue because you don't have ancestors that were refugees. It's like, yeah, but like my teachers are Palestinian, I read information about it, I may have some expertise on the matter. I'm not claiming that I experience what they experience. But again, this is straight from identity politics. Don't talk about the black experience. You're not black. Okay, like if I bring you a token black person, you think they represent all black people? They don't. Sheikh Jibril, if he speaks, a lot of people don't even feel comfortable because he speaks with a New Yorker accent. We're from the West Coast. Black people here talk differently. Right? He's representative of his experience. He went to a historically black university. He's very highly educated, both in Islam and in secular studies. His experience is not representative of all black experience. But that's what we have with this, type of identity stuff. I don't know if that answers your question about invitations, but I hope that it will be a good thing. And it's also for us, if somebody goes out of their way to invite us, I think it's good to show our reciprocal appreciation. So they're saying we appreciate you and we want to invite you. Your dinner is on us, so we likewise accept that. I don't know what the other details are. Are you supposed to bring your family? Are you supposed to RSVP with a number of people? I don't know, because I just did not find out. I need to ask questions. I'm asking you guys. Are you guys going? No? Yes? We don't know? So I'm just going to have Chinese food all by myself. Yeah, so that's an issue, by the way, because if people are not going to be going.
So, like, I think one of the things is, or why a lot of people have reservations, is because this was made about celebrating crowdfunding and not necessarily everybody fundraised. So I think that, like, there might be like a reservation, like, oh, this is not like my gathering because I didn't participate. I mean, some people, even if they participated, they might not feel like they participated enough in order to.
But what does this have to do with not making it to the dinner? Did the dinner say only those who actively fundraised are invited to this dinner?
No, not at all.
What was the invite? Who received the invite?
Every single seminary.
All students in seminary, correct? Right? Yeah, so we should not have that thought. Plus, by the way, the dinner is not coming from the crowdfunding funds. That's also important. I mean, I asked about that. I said, I don't know how much you guys collected. Like, are we going to spend all the money that we collected on the dinner? So they said, no, this is different. This is the board of directors showing appreciation. So, I mean, if that's the case, then I should not go either, right? I'm just going to go to show support and appreciation. And crowdfunding campaign doesn't end. If you believe in this project, then you're going to be dedicated to it. Even when the time period of the fund, whatever crowd fund, whatever ends, right? I'm not going to stop. Even if I don't work for IOK, I believe in this project. I'll still tell people about it, even if I'm overseas. I've told people about it overseas who will never see this place. Why? Because I believe in the project, so I can ask for their dua at least. Maybe they have a student, like some of my colleagues from the UK, one of them lives in Mecca, and his neighbor, his son got accepted to university here, and it was Los Angeles. He knows I'm from LA. So he sent me a message. He's like, Sheikh Ahmed, there's this person in LA and I want you to look out for him. It's like that's how it works. Now, did I look out for him? No. I told him, I live in San Bernardino. I'm 70 miles away from LA, but tell me what I can help with. What does he need exactly? We can connect him to the right people. So I don't think it's only to celebrate those who actively fundraise. Maybe the Chinese food is going to encourage you to go and get some more funds. I don't know. Maybe it's like a form of bribing you. And it's just to get together. Remember, we said we wanted to do more things. Sorry, I missed the beach day, but we wanted to do more things outside of the class. So we're just like human, right? You see people eat. You're like, does Sheikh Ahmed actually eat? Because he talks about spirituality. He's pretty fat. How does he get all that fat? Is it like all that spiritual food? No, it's not. I do eat, so it's good for you to see me eat. It's like, no. We should lower our gaze as he eats. How do we perform etiquettes of eating? If you've never seen me eat, how would you know the etiquettes of eating? Like one of the brothers recently asked a question, and I was really surprised. He said he had a disturbing night. And I said, do you not do the adhkar before going to sleep? He's like, no. And this is a brother that's been studying for some time. So we're studying this right now. So I expect you at least to read this surah before going to sleep. So you don't come tell me 5 years down the line I had a nightmare. Because if you had a nightmare, it's your fault. You basically did not have protection.
But is it really 100% the person's fault even if they recited the adhkar?
No, I wouldn't say that. But most likely they did not recite the adhkar. Almost every single time I've had disturbing sleep, it's when I was too tired to say the adhkar. Because, first of all, I believe in what the messenger promised, and second of all, it works. When you make your adhkar, you're protected. So that's the point, is if you don't see the teachers also interact, you guys don't see us with each other. You may think that, like I don't like the other teachers. Like, this guy is so critical, man. He hates everybody. But then you see us, joking and laughing and sitting down and being respectful to one another. We don't have to agree on every single thing, right? But seeing that is healthy for people, so they're like, okay, now I see how this thing works. Because if you think that each one is like in a different department, Allah made us different. He didn't make us all the same. But we can come together for the betterment of an institution and also to serve the student body. So I did not know this was going to turn into a crowdfunding advertisement, but I apologize about that. But thank you for letting me know, because now I have to block out my whole Saturday. And I have to let my family know that all these appreciations. So Saturday they had appreciation for Saturday school. Today they're going to have appreciation for teachers here, and now we're going to have appreciation. I'm like, why am I being appreciated? I'm like a failure. You guys keep on feeding me. At least make me lose weight. Appreciate me by taking me to the gym, not feeding me. One of the students, mashallah, she always brings sweets. She knows I like chocolate. Every time she sees me, chocolate. I'm like, I really appreciate what you're doing, but this is not good for my health.
But they did get you a gym membership. But they did get you a gym membership.
My brother did. That's my manager. It's not the students. That's my brother's
You
student.
said my manager? I thought you meant like someone at IOK.
No, my brother manages my engagements. Because if he doesn't, then I won't ever go to the house. Because people always invite me to things. Not to food, because I don't like food invitations. But like come and speak here and go to San Diego and go to Sacramento and go to Arizona. So I usually just accept everything. But if you accept everything, then your wife and children and parents will disown you eventually, because they're like, what's your benefit? Like, you're not a human being anymore. And that's not good. So my manager gets to draw boundaries for me. And some people in the community, they're like, some of those, some people who try to book events, they're like, you're so difficult to get to. I said, I'm right here in front of you. Talk to me. He's like, no, you require that we contact your manager to book you. I said, yeah, because I don't know my own calendar. So like, if you invite me and I'm already booked in that event or for like another event, how am I going to make it? Because if you tell me you want me, I'll say, yes, I'm there. But it's not humanly possible to be in San Diego and San Bernardino at the same exact time. I know they're all saints, but like there's no miracles happening here. Anyway, alhamdulillah. Ma'ani al-kalimat. So as you're going to notice now, with ma'ani al-kalimat, it's not the same exact thing that we covered. So we have al-falaq, and he says as-subh. As-subh is morning time. Okay? And as-subh, so like sometimes people say, if you're like around Arabs, sometimes they say, I prayed subh. It's not called subh, it's called fajr. Okay? And subh is actually, in hadith, is the 2 rak'ahs of fajr. The 2 rak'ahs before fajr. Sorry, the sunnah. Okay? So sunnatul fajr sometimes is called subh. But subh in general is morning time. And for some reason it becomes sobo in English. Sobo. Subh. It's subh with a ha. Okay, khalaqa. Here it says awjada. Awjada is to bring to existence. But khalaqa simply means to make and to create. Ghasiq, here he has layl, and we said in the hadith that we mentioned, it's the darkness also of the moon. Waqab al-layl, we said waqaba means to go in a hole, like if you have a waqab, it's like a hole in the wall. Here, waqab al-layl, he says adlam al-layl, the night has become dark. And again, unfortunately for many of us as people who live in cities, due to light pollution, you never actually see dark. There is light pollution all around us. So when you truly want to see Darkness, you got to go out to the country, to rural areas where there is no lights. And then you see how amazing the stars are, subhanAllah. You just like, you lose yourself in the stars. They feel like they're right next to you, like these lamps. But in regular cities, you can't see that because of the light pollution. We have light pollution, sound pollution, air pollution, all type of pollution, sin pollution. So you have to take out of yourself from pollutants and get cleansed, do detox. Yes, Najib.
Regarding sober, when we were covering the hadith regarding the salahs, when Jibreel alayhi salam led the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam twice, the second time around in regards to Fajr, it says over here, then he prayed sober when the lamp glowed. Is that in regards to the...
He said subh?
That's what it's in English, but the first time around it said Fajr, and the second time it says sober.
Yeah. So sometimes it's used interchangeably. Because it still qualifies. Subh is that time of the day. But subh can also extend. Whereas Fajr is... So you have subh, you have ghada, al-ghadatu. You have, so those are like the early daytime, not early morning hours, because when we say early morning hours, it's AM, right? Like 1 AM in English. That's not Fajr yet. So Fajr is at the break of dawn. You have al-Fajr wal-Subh wal-Ghada, al-Ghadatu bil-Ashiki wal-Ibkar. Al-Waqtu al-Bakir. So when you say al-Bakir, al-Sabah al-Bakir, early morning. And Bakara comes from the same root of Bikr, and Bikr is like virgin or new. So you have that word as well. Al-Bakur, Waqtu al-Bakur, bil-Ashi wal-Ibkar. Ashi is in the evening time. Yes, Iman. So there is multiple words. But I'm just saying, typically in hadith, when subh is mentioned for Fajr, it's the 2 rak'ahs of the sunnah. So like, rak'atay al-subh khayrun min ad-dunya wa ma fiha. Some people think that's related to Fajr Salah. No, it's related to the sunnah of Fajr Salah. Yes?
So, sorry to bring it back to crowdfunding, but we got a message on our WhatsApp group.
Okay.
Year one, and it says that our sister Sarah, I don't know if she meant this, but she said yes, only those who raised money were invited.
Oh! I didn't know that.
So, I mean, like, for me, the reason why I was, like, kind of uncomfortable with the whole idea was not because, like, oh, I felt like I didn't raise enough money or anything, but because I had a few issues with the approach of this whole crowdfunding, like, project. Like, one, that how much money every person raised was, like, visible, and I felt like at times it was, like, a kind of pushy a little bit, and so like a few of those things is why this, and I just saw this dinner as kind of a part of the whole project, which is why I kind of was like, I'm not really feeling necessarily everything that's going on with this.
Did you share those concerns?
No.
Why not?
Because I didn't know if they were necessarily valid. I don't know if I was just being like petty or like...
Don't ever say that. Like, everyone's opinion is valid. We're not talking about something related to religion here. We're discussing, how do you feel about this approach? You are a stakeholder at this, right? Nobody pushed me, but I was appointed to like follow up with what class? I think you guys, right? But like, I have not even discussed this matter. So I don't know if you're upset with that approach, because I'm like, so I don't know what you would call it. I don't want to say apathetic, because I do care, but like, I'm not personally involved. But everyone's opinion who is a stakeholder at this, which is you guys, the students, should voice their opinion. And not just about this, but I've said before also about how we teach, about discussions in class, about boundaries, about other students' behavior. It's valid to say it. Now, what happens after it's received, that's a different story. I can't guarantee that people will take that into consideration. I sure will. I mean, right now, this morning, one of my colleagues in the UK, he's got a great project, and he's actually, I mean, I asked Sister Sarah on the drive, as I was driving, I'm not supposed to text and drive, so I sent her a voice message about it's called Kindful, right? That's what it was called. And my colleague sent me a message this morning, and he says, we're trying to raise funds. They're trying to purchase a building for the project. He's been teaching, mashallah, for 10 years. Like, I wish I could be his student, because like the type of info that he covers. Anyway, this is the first, and he teaches for free. I don't think there's any fee. But he is trying to have independence and stuff like that, so he wants to have his own building instead of just paying for the venues that host the program. So this is the first time this year he's trying to raise funds for the project, and he's asking the students. So this morning, right before I came, he tells me I have an idea that people did pledges, and he says in the pledges people put the amount that they pledged for, but he says some of those people are new into this fundraising, pledging. He says, so I was thinking on every 5 students, I would appoint one who's more experienced. And the question to me was, because he consults with me on certain things, and he says, do you have any reservations about that? So we're going to have a lead person for the team of 5, but we're going to share. So the lead person will know the pledges. So I said, that's actually concerning to me in a way, because what if those 5 did not approve of their pledge being public? They just wanted to do it for the project, right? So I don't think he had considered that. So he's like, so I'll send them an email and say, if you wish to participate in this like 5-in-1 team, then if you can give us consent. So I said, definitely having consent is good. So I did not know what the process was here. I mean, I heard the presentation the first day, and I don't know what it's been since. And I know that people are on different levels. Number one, I think different levels to commitment to the program and appreciation of the program, but also whatever this program, the crowdfunding. I don't know crowdfunding, and I don't do with funding, but that's why I'm not the one pushing it. It's people who actually know what it takes to run an operation that are behind this, and I think it's good for us to voice our concerns, and then also maybe that's the time to also address that dinner is not just going to be appreciation. Maybe that's the time also to hear back from them, and maybe why did we do things this way, and so forth. So this morning I told my colleague, I said, we just have something this year. We haven't done it before either. This is our first year doing this. And IOK has been around for a while, but to actually ask the students themselves. I don't recall this happening before. So I told them we just did this called Kindful, and I asked Sister Sarah for the link so I can share it with my colleague, so he can benefit from the model. I know I've been seeing over the last few years through social media the other crowdfunding stuff, Launch Good, and Launch Good is a Muslim one. What's the non-Muslim one? GoFundMe? Yeah, but you know what I've also seen, so this is what hurts me, and I want to say this because I can. And what happens sometimes is certain people abuse a system like this. So I've seen some people who, for example, want to go for Umrah, and they do like a crowdfundme page, sponsor me for Umrah. Islamically, I find uneasiness with that, because we're not supposed to seek out money, right? And that's why I said sometimes we do things for institutional benefit, not really for personal benefit. So this is one way of me trying to understand this. But I would not want, anyone to say, sponsor me. I mean, I don't know, sponsor me to become a student or like beg people for that. In fact, that was an issue that they had in Saudi because we were scholarship students. But it was difficult to bring your wife. They would not allow married students to bring their wives because they're like, the scholarship does not take into consideration wife and children. So if you bring your wife here, you're gonna have issues trying to what's the word? Take care of them financially. So then students would start to work, but not everyone has skills to work. And then they would start begging. And then their wives would beg. Right? And then this looks bad on the institution, looks bad on learning. Right? So you have to like draw a fine line between begging or actually asking people to become investors. Like, I also want you to have a say in this. Sponsor someone to study when you can't yourself study and you realize the value of this. That's how it's supposed to be. But not begging, oh, we're struggling, please give us money. Because Allah takes care of people who are trying to do good. And you know, when I heard that, because I was invited to a conference, and when they said that, because before that all the students were upset, like we wanted to protest. Of course, we would have all gotten locked up if we protested in Saudi. But like I was the one who spoke Arabic, and they're like, you gotta talk to the president of the university. And I went and talked to the guy, and I'm like, Sheikh, you guys should fear Allah. These brothers are struggling without their wives. And the Sheikh is like, he was so cool. he was like, because I was translating for a brother, and the brother was getting worked up, and like I was away from my wife for 7 years, so like I know the pain, right? So I'm translating for this brother, and the brother's getting upset, and like he's like, Sheikh, I'm from America, and you know I left the world to come here and learn deen, but I need to have my wife. So he says, we accepted you, we didn't accept your wife. That was the end of the conversation. You know, he's like, you want your wife? Go to your wife. That was it. And just imagine me having to translate both sides of the conversation. So the brother afterwards is cursing the Sheikh. He's like, may Allah destroy him. I'm like, take it easy. But you know, I felt it. I felt the pain. But when I went to this conference and they said the story of how the trend became that the wives of the students would beg outside of masjid doors, I'm like, oh my God. No wonder. So now if this is your perspective of students of knowledge, you're like, these people are filthy, right? Because how do people look at homeless people? Like, you think they just want to give them a hug? They're like, get away from me, you stink, right? You bum, you drug addict. Like, why are you begging? Why don't you get a real job, right? That's the type of stuff that you hear. So we never want to lower the people of knowledge. And you guys are people of knowledge if you're associated with it. But the point here is to think of creative ways of supporting the institution to do more. I'm not satisfied with just talking to a few people. And my thing though is not about quantity. Because if I have one person that is gifted, I think I've made it. If Allah accepts that one person through my efforts and then they teach, I don't need to become famous and known. If my student becomes famous and known, alhamdulillah, I get all their work without even, doing anything. I've already done my job. So I hope that people, don't take it the wrong way, but I'm sure because this is the first time it's happening, probably there is a lot of issues. And that's why every single person's feedback is important. So now when they do this again, they take that into consideration. I don't think this should be a one-time thing, but as you grow institutionally, you do things and it's trial and error. One of the campuses, we recently switched. You guys know that we switched from like IOK Chess came along. So now the chaplaincy page changed. And the booking procedure, some of you have booked appointments with chaplains. So there's a specific way of booking before. You go to IOK chaplaincy and you book an appointment. Now you got to go to IOK Chess. And it's a different program because we've added like professionalism into it. So now there is like something called informed consent. There's a confidentiality agreement that you have to sign before you even get the appointment. So in one of the campuses, I shared the new link with the responsible person, and I said, if you can please pass it around to the students so they know the procedure. And I reminded him a few times, and I don't like, repeating myself, because it upsets me when people repeat themselves with me. So I try to put myself in other people's shoes, although I do that with my kids, always repeat myself. So then he told me this week, he's like, oh, I never sent it. I said, why not? He said, there's only one more week of school, so I figured we don't need to send it. I said, yeah, but I sent it a month ago. He's like, yeah. That's it. So whenever things are happening new, there's going to be slips, and people have to learn what works, what doesn't work. May Allah guide us, and that's why I think, which is very good, why we were not necessarily the ones teaching you. We're not heavily involved in this. So if you recall, I think Sheikh Nu'man came and spoke about it, and the admin team speaks to you about it. But I don't like you to connect that your teachers are asking you for favors. I already told you that. I don't want you to do me any favors. I will even ask you to make dua for me, in fact, because that's asking you a favor. That's actually the greatest favor. If you decide to do anything on your own, from the kindness of your own heart, alhamdulillah, that's a blessing. But I should not actively seek that. But someone who runs the operation and they know the cost of an operation, it's good for you to actually just know. And again, I was not aware, but a lot of students are like, they have some type of scholarship while they study here, because we recognize, or the admin recognizes, that as students they don't really have a lot of money and things of that sort. So that's where that whole idea came from. But if everyone was able to, like, if everyone is well off and no one requires a scholarship, I don't think there would be such a program. But if you're going to give out scholarships, it's just like any other college. Where are they going to get the funding from? They do different things. And if we don't want somebody to come and mess with our teaching, whether it's government or some other organization, then where is that going to come from? It has to come from within. It's got to come from the stakeholders. Because whenever an outsider comes in and they're like, yeah, okay, we'll fund, you know that there's organizations that have grants. And those grants are not small grants, like big money. I know an organization right now that got a $350,000 grant. I mean, we could be living large with that type of money. But it's a non-Muslim organization that has a specific agenda that they're pushing on other faith traditions, and the Muslims now are involved in that same agenda. Nothing comes up. Like, nobody's going to help you just because you look good. They have some other type of agenda there. So if you keep the support from within, though, then you remain independent. And that's been the tradition of at least the madrasa systems, by the way. That's why the madaris, and I told you before, I like them more than other institutions because they're not government controlled. Medina is government controlled, Mecca is government controlled, Egypt is government controlled. The madrasa system in the Indian subcontinent is autonomous. And that helps keep teachings independent to a large degree. And that's what you want. You want to seek that. Now, maybe that wasn't presented. Maybe, when I talk, I present a different side to the story. But I believe everyone's opinion is very important about matters like this, because you guys are stakeholders. Yes, ma'am.
Just to further, so when you explained the reasoning behind it, it all makes sense, and I don't have any reservations about that. But you were probably here for the first presentation about crowdfunding, because I think a lot of the teachers were in the back.
Yeah, we were sitting in the back.
So one of the things that was talked about was building a new building for chess.
Yes.
So for me, I think one of the things that didn't make any sense to me is why majority of our classrooms, at least for seminary, are empty, but we're talking about building a new building, but we don't even have Quran in our curriculum, which seems to me like a sort of incomplete seminary education.
And that's what we're pushing for. I've been pushing for Quran in the curriculum from year one when I first joined.
So it's like, why are we talking about when we have the infrastructure for at least the amount of students that we have? Why are we, like...
So yeah, logistically, I'll tell you why. So logistically is so we can be away from the little kids here.
But
Because
if
being...
someone asked our opinion, like for me, for example,
Yeah.
I don't mind there being little kids outside.
True, but that's a liability. So those people who are behind the scenes, they recognize legal liabilities. If anything happens to a child, we're all liable. That's why whenever we have a visitor to campus, their ID has to be presented. They have to register in, because this is a school. We're adults. You never mix adults with children. God forbid anything happens inappropriately, even if it's by accident. It's scary. I told you, I'm a teacher here. When I walk by the children, I don't engage them. It's almost like I'm a ghost. I like that they don't even acknowledge me sometimes. Sometimes they're like, "Alaikum Sheikh," I'm like, "How do you know me?" They're like, "We see you on the," But that was a big issue. The other issue is privacy, because it is disturbing to some people. You don't mind it, and that's positive. I know some brothers, if they hear the basketball bounce outside, their brain is out there. They cannot focus. So it's not necessarily like for a lavish building. The point was to have our own separate space. We have the counseling department. Okay? But because we have kids, they keep on going in and out of counseling sessions. That's a reality. Like, this is what we have to complain about in our meetings, in our administration meetings. Or it's not soundproof. So like if somebody's trying to speak about something very private and personal, and the counseling room right now happens to be next to the bathroom. I didn't know about this because whenever I used the bathroom, it didn't happen. But the counselor said that the kids are singing in there. So just imagine you're having a consultation with the counselor and you hear a Bollywood song next door. That is not right. You see? So yeah, we've been pushing for Quran as part of the curriculum. One reason though, just to be fair, why it's not, is because we see what people are doing with the current curriculum. We've encouraged everyone, you must do Quran on your own time. Right? But I mean, I revisited this with Sheikh Farhan this week because he was showing me the madrasa curriculum. And it has tajweed, and I remember when we were in Medina we had tajweed. So I said we need to incorporate this, and he's like, I completely agree. But sometimes again it's just logistics. The fact that we only have you guys for 4 hours every day, and the amount of info that is to be brought in, and that's why we try to kind of make up for it in the summer sessions, which is going to happen after Ramadan, inshallah. And hopefully that will add new things. So yeah, I completely agree with you. And it's not about like a building, because this place is not about buildings. I mean, if you know anything about the IOK story, they moved into this campus in 2012. They started in 97. I remember I attended groundbreaking. That was the first year I met Sheikh Nouman. That was 2008. So the growth is organic. I don't think there is a heavy push for a building per se, but to enhance the current services is the heavy push. But that's like an idea, is like, look, would you like that? But I really appreciate what you just said, and this needs to be in writing. This is feedback. I don't mind the noise and the kids personally. Good. Just because I just told you about the liability, don't cancel your opinion. Right? So I don't mind that, but I really want Quran in the curriculum. If we have multiple people saying, I want Quran in the curriculum, guess what? We're going to have Quran in the curriculum. But if people are saying, no, don't have Quran in the curriculum, she's a hafidah. And she's like, why do I have to do ABC? Right? And I'm not saying this is about preferential treatment, but it's just the reality. It's demand. If we have a demand, we're going to supply that demand. One sheikh came earlier in the year. I think some of you attended, the doctor from Pakistan. Remember that? We sat in the room up there. I think you were there. You were one of the few people that... He wanted us to teach in complete Arabic. He's like, shame on you guys. You're not speaking to your students in Arabic. He just shamed us, like straight shamed us. He's like, you guys are a disappointment to humanity. How dare you call yourselves shuyukh? Where are your turbans? Like, oh my God, I feel naked right now. Just cover me up, like put a blanket on me, right? That's the sheikh's standard. He's like, that's what we do in Pakistan. And you guys are no less than us. I just met one of their students actually, 2 weeks ago in San Bernardino. He was here for summer break. And he's like, they really emphasize the Arabic language. I'm like, no kidding. I bet you they do, you know? So if we were to flip like that all of a sudden, you think we'd have any students? We won't. We will not. It would be too demanding because people are frustrated. Sometimes we get off track, not because I like to talk on tangents. If I notice people are falling asleep, I'm not going to talk about Arabic anymore. Or if something is bothering them or is weighing heavy on them. And it's not just things that weigh heavy on me, by the way. Like most of the stuff that weigh heavy on me, I don't mention in class.
It's usually like when we bring up a current event or something.
But please, feedback is important, and I think the feedback is needed for this event as well. If you guys want to protest and none of us show up, I'll join the protest. I'm one of the protesters. So just all I need is an excuse, because I could be up in prison instead of being in Maz. You know, I'll be with the brothers up there who don't have the opportunity to eat like we do. We're so spoiled, subhanAllah. They have no say in what they eat. Grown men, they're treated like slaves. SubhanAllah. So make dua for those brothers and the sisters. Okay. النافخات من الساحرات. So نفاثات he translated as nafikhat, which is, we said these two words are similar, nafakha and nafatha. من الساحرات, of the sorcerers, female magicians. Sahira. Sometimes, by the way, sahir has to do with beauty. So they say jamaluha sahir. Her beauty, like she's so fine, her beauty is like a magic, is like some type of magic. So the word could be used in multiple ways. We said before, inna min al-bayani la sihra. Some people's eloquence and their articulation is like magic. It doesn't mean magic, it means it does the work of magic. So what does magic do? It gives you illusions. And sometimes you may say words and they impact people in such a way that it's like you just put a magic spell on them. That happens a lot, especially with gender relationships. So the guys usually will say some words that will make the sisters think, and sometimes it's the sisters that would do the same thing. Like one person would have this skill and they use it for demonic reasons. They say words that will convince this person that they're, gonna live forever and ever and ever. And of course it's just like a one night stand, typically, or a very short term relationship. But you would think, because the person was under the influence, they're like, yeah, I found my soulmate. Yesterday in chaplaincy, a sister asked about soulmates. She's like, does Allah write your soulmate? I said, what does that even mean? Is that a concept from Islam? What does soulmate mean?
Like your soul has a mate.
So you know what they do in Christian exchanging of vows? What do they say? Till death, what? Do us apart. Is that what we believe in Islam? When we do the aqd? No, it's aqd, it's a contract. So death may be the reason. It could be divorce. There's multiple options. So we have soul mates, not one mate. And this doesn't mean like it's an orgy. soul mates are al-arwah. The Prophet ﷺ says, al-arwahu junudun mujannada. Souls are like ranking officers in an army. مَا تَعَارَفَ مِنْهَا اِتَلَفْ. Those who recognize one another from the spiritual world, they get along with each other here. وَمَا تَنَاكَرَ مِنْهَا اخْتَلَفَ. And those who did not get together in the spiritual world, they will be distant from one another here. And that's why sometimes there's human beings, before you even hear them talk, and they may not even look good, there's something that connects you with them. What do you think that is? If there's nothing in common, your race is not the same, culture is not the same, something is deeper than that. And it's the souls. That doesn't mean that's your sexual partner. So that's how people mix it. They mix marriage and soulmate. And marriage, their main thing about marriage is intimacy. But your soulmate doesn't have to be your intimate partner. You have many mates. You're not mating. Right? You're rather worshiping Allah together. I don't know if it made any sense to the sister yesterday, because again, chaplaincy words are different than seminary words. You guys have heard a lot of the things I repeat. But she was just like in shock. And I said, let's say a person has a girlfriend right now. Is that their soulmate? Who is to tell? And did Allah not write that they would be boyfriend, girlfriend, and have an illegitimate relationship? Or did that happen in spite of Allah? Everything happens by the will of Allah. Even wrong things happen by the will of Allah. That doesn't mean Allah is pleased with them or approves of them, but He allows them to take place. Min sharri ma khalaq. Allah creates, but some of the things that He creates have evil potential. Like shaitan, like Iblis. Right? You had your hand up and you had your hand up. Yes.
Oh, I didn't.
In regards to earlier, we were mentioning nightmares and using these as protection. So just so I have it clear, am I right? So concerning this and like for adhkar, is it mandatory to do the blowing, or could you just recite it? Or is it like levels?
You can recite it. The blowing is following the sunnah.
So like say we were doing adhkar.
It's like doing more of the adhkar. Like you can do a basic form of dhikr and you say Bismika Allahumma amutu wa ahya. That's a form of dhikr. But you can read Ayatul Kursi, and you can read the last two ayat of Surah Al-Baqarah, and you can say the long adhkar. So the more the better, the more the merrier. But if you just want to read, you can just read.
So even in regards to these, just reading is probably as for protection.
Yeah, of course.
But the blowing would add
More protection, an extra layer of protection.
And that's start with the dry blow or the moist spit.
So the hadith makes it sound. So there's two ways of understanding it. Either you blow first or you read first. Either you blow first or you read first. And the commentaries differ a bit, but basically, read, and then blow, and then rub or wipe from the top of your face, your head, and then the front of your body. Yeah.
That's
Three times. Yeah. You read them 3 times. So you say قُلْ هُوَ اللَّهُ أَحَدٌ قُلْ أَعُوذُ بِرَبِّ الْفَلَقِ قُلْ أَعُوذُ بِرَبِّ النَّاسِ. You blow. That's one. Then you do that 3 times.
Oh, okay.
And by the way, these types of sunan you also don't practice because you didn't see your teachers do. You're like, we're going to sleep with our teachers? What happened to personal boundaries? Right? So I remember some of the brothers, some of the da'wah brothers, some people know them as the tabligh group. We went out in a home and it was time for going to sleep, and it's so beautiful because people are trying to implement these sunnahs, you know. So I see the brother sitting up and he's like doing this, you know. It's like, you know exactly what he's doing. You don't freak out, because if I didn't know, I'm like, what is going on here? These people are insane. I mean, they look funny, but now they just took it overboard, you know. So to see that in practice, like so many people learn the sunnah by being in the presence of people who practice the sunnah. But if you've never seen it practiced and then you read it and you're like, yeah, I wonder how that goes, and then you might implement it in a wrong way as well. But when you have someone who's properly trained, they show you without telling you, hey, look at me. And sometimes they may tell you, look at me. So yeah, you can, the more the merrier basically. And this hadith just says he reads it. It doesn't say anything else. The other hadith says he uses it to blow. And this one also doesn't mention Qul Huwallahu Ahad. It just mentions the last two surah as well. So.
And two follow-ups with that. So one, in regards to before sleeping, is there like a statute of limitations, I guess? Because some think that like you have to do it while you're in bed, and then like right before you're sleeping, and then some like before that, or
there. I don't know if there is statute of limitations, but we know that there is evening adhkar, and then there is nighttime adhkar, and going to sleep adhkar. So.
And lastly, when doing it for someone else, like a child, would you do the same thing? Like blow?
You would read and you blow either on your hand or you blow directly on the person. So like when they do ruqya, they blow on people. They actually blow on people like that. Or if they're using water, they'll blow into the water, and that water either is drunk or washed with, and so forth, depending on the type of thing that is being treated. Because when you blow, it's just external. It's going to affect the externities. But if the issue is internal, then you want it to go inside.
So you can.
And that's why with magic, typically they'll ask them to drink water and also rub themselves with oil that has been read on. Because the magic spell has gone in. Typically, it's consumed. So it's in there and you want it to get it out. It's very, very interesting, subhanAllah. There is a whole set of knowledge related to that issue.
So for the blowing, external blowing, you kind of spin your
hands.
Yeah, in your hands, and do head, shoulders,
head, face, and then the front of your body.
From your body.
Yeah.
And would you do that with internal kind of blowing?
Going to sleep, there's no internal. That's it.
Okay.
Just that. But that's ruqya. Ruqya, when someone is dealing with a specific ailment,
Okay.
then you want the benefit of the Quran to penetrate, to go inside the body, not just to be external.
And is that just for ruqya, or can it just be like a normal practice?
It can be. I mean, ruqya is not limited to like someone having a major issue. We should always use the Quran for ruqya. That's one of the ways of using the Quran, is using it for ruqya individually. Again, most people think ruqya is like I'm going to someone. No, do it on yourself. Believe in it and do it on yourself. We should not have worldly attachments to people, and that's another problem. It's like, oh, I went to this sheikh, he's like the superhero in this field. Do it on yourself. And that's what a real sheikh would tell you anyway. They'll give you homework and they'll say, do ruqya on yourself. Do the adhkar. So this is what a real raqi would tell you this. This is what's a must. Refrain from sin, because sin makes you spiritually vulnerable. Remove haram things from your household. Make your adhkar. Perform salah on time and do your obligations. That's the what do pharmacists write you?
Prescription.
A prescription. That is the ruqya prescription. Most people are like, read on me. What do you mean read on me, man? What do you think I am? You got the wrong religion. We're not like soothsayers and like, what do they call them? Healing, what do they call them? Sham, yeah, stuff like the Native Americans. We're not like that. If someone is doing Islam that way, that's not Islam. In Islam, you have to give them the whole thing. You're like, look, we have a deal. The deal is you gotta fulfill your side of the deal, and then I'll help you out here. But if the person's like, nah, man, I'm not leaving haram. So what am I doing then? It's like going to the doctor and saying, I'm not gonna stop smoking, but I want you to help me deal with the aftermath of smoking. He's like, okay, we gotta lower your nicotine level. He's like, okay, go ahead, lower it right now. So he gives them a nicotine patch, right? Is that what it's called? Okay. And then he leaves And the whole time he's out, he's chain smoking. Did that help? That may actually undo or like tamper with the body because he already had the nicotine and then he's taking an extra nicotine. Don't mess with deen like that. So you're like, go to Iraqi, he reads on you, and then you go and you do the opposite of this ruqya. That causes damage without you even considering it. The example is like somebody's like eating a healthy meal and then right after that, I mean that happens to me sometimes. I eat a healthy meal and then you eat a greasy meal. It's like, what did you just achieve? That doesn't work. You have to maintain a certain routine of healthy food to have the outcome of healthy diet. But if I mix it, if I eat a pound of celery, I like celery, and then right after that I eat a bowl of M&Ms. What did I just do?
You negated. It's a balance.
Yeah, so we have to maintain consistency. So that's what it is with ruqya, with Iraqi. There has to be this deal that's made. Okay. Then he says nafatha. We said that already. An-nafathu, male. An-nafakhu, the one who blows. Al-uqad is the plural of uqda. We spoke about uqad 2 days ago. Let me see. I'm sorry, but the seminary is sending me some messages, so let me just check what's going on here. Is this room 401? Okay, so just to give you a heads up, so there's no shock. Inshallah, we're second hour, we're going to all be together. We're going to bring everyone together, not for an appreciation, just for a group huddle. So 9:30, inshallah, the other classes are going to join you.
Wait, what is it? What is it?
It's a surprise, I can't tell you.
Oh, really? Are they trying to
Well,
calm down
somebody heard that and they want to shut down this protest. They're like, let's just eliminate these people. Yeah, no, it has nothing to do with that. This was, in fact, from earlier in the week, Sheikh Farhan told me about it. So I didn't realize that it was going to be today. Okay, so we'll just continue, inshallah. Al-uqad, we said, is the singular of, is the plural of uqda. And then he says it comes from min. Whenever he has min here, it means where does this come from? Where does it originate from? Min aqad al-habla. So it originates from tying the rope. Al-habl is a rope. Al-habl is a rope. Haml is to carry. Haml can also be pregnancy. Rabata is to tie. Rabata is to tie. Hasada is fi'l madi. And he says, what does this mean? Hasada, ahabba, he desired, he liked. Dhahab al-ni'mati, the going away of the blessing. Anin nas, from people. And the definition I gave you is تمني زوال النعمة عن الغير, desiring that blessings are removed from others. المعنى اسأل فعل أمر. اسأل is فعل أمر, which means ask. So this is the tafsir of the surah. Maz earlier in the week asked, it says قل. What does that signify? So there is some type of command here. قل is a command, فعل أمر. But what does it entail? It entails for you to actually seek something here in this context. اسأل يا محمد, ask, O Muhammad, ربك, your master and your Lord. Who is your master? الذي خلق نور الصبح, the one who created the light of the morning time. Now he got this from قُلْ أَعُوذُ بِرَبِّ الْفَلَقِ. Okay, I have an issue with this because Allah is not just the one who created. and made the light of the morning. That's one meaning of Rabb. Rabb is creator, sustainer, master, lord, owner, controller, the one who says what is to be and what is not to be. So Rabb is a huge word. So that's why I don't want it to just limit it to الَّذِي خَلَقَ. Allah didn't just make the light of the day. He's all of the things that we mentioned and more. Rabb is a very, very strong and powerful word. What are you asking him? To يُبْعِدَ عَنْكَ, to distance from you شَرَّ مَا خَلَقَ, the evil of things that he has created. Again, we said this is a testimony to the fact that Allah creates good and evil. Everything has potential for good and for evil, and you want to ask Allah to protect you from that potential evil of everything within the creation. What else are you asking protection for? وَشَرِّ اللَّيْلِ, and the harm and the evil of the night, إِذَا أَظْلَمَ, when it darkens. You know, when I was speaking about light pollution, you don't really feel this where you're terrified of darkness except out there when you don't have light pollution. That's where it comes to you and you're like, قُلْ أَعُوذُ بِرَبِّ الْفَلَقِ مِنْ شَرِّ مَا خَلَقَ وَمِنْ شَرِّ غَاسِقٍ إِذَا وَقَبَ. You witnessed it. You're like, whoa, man, the darkness of the night, really, because you can't even see your hand. And it's right here in front of you. It's just pitch dark. So you actually feel the creation. Right now we have like so many visors where we're not recognizing what the creation is around us. If we did, I don't know how people would just live. Like if you were just to listen in and to say, oh, there's so many creatures out there. If you watch a lot of sci-fi, you wonder when they're going to come and eat you. Right? People don't think that way except when they have exposure. Right? So we need to expose ourselves more to our natural habitat. And some people are blessed, you know, some people just have this, they love the outdoors. They love nature. That's good, but don't worship it. And you're loving it doesn't mean you worship it. But they tend to have specific personality traits, people who like nature. But unfortunately, our life, you know, like we had the discussion before about dogs. Many people have issues with dogs because they're not accustomed to being out. If they were hunters in traditional societies or shepherds, or had guard dogs, they would have no issues with dogs. So it's completely due to our, like the way we've been programmed. طيب, what else? وَشَرِّ السَّاحِرَاتِ, and the harm and the evil of the female magicians. اللَّاتِي, so this is the proper pronoun. Instead of saying الَّذِينَ, say allati, and that's in the Quran. When Allah talks to the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam about his wives, allati hajarna ma'aka wa imra'atan mu'minatan in wahabat nafsaha lin-nabi in arada an-nabiy an yastankihaha khalisatan laka min duni al-mu'minin. That's in Surah Al-Ahzab. Wa sharri as-sahirat allati, who are these women? Ya'qidna al-habla, they tie the rope. ثم ينفثن في هذه العقد, then they blow with moisture into these knots. So what do you think they're blowing? They're saying some type of prayer, some type of curse, and they're blowing it into those knots. وَشَرِّ الْحَاسِدِ, and the evil of the person who is jealous and envious. الَّذِي يَتَمَنَّى, who seeks out and who desires زوال نعمة الله عنك, which seeks out the removal. Zawal is removal. Remember we said zawal, waqtu zawal. The removal of ni'matullah, of ni'matillah anka, from you. May Allah protect us from those people. May Allah protect us from all the harm that we were mentioning in this surah. So it's a very beautiful surah, and again, it's very comprehensive. Unfortunately, with these short surah, when people recite them, they recite them very quickly. If you just spend some time and reflect over what you just said, it's some powerful stuff. Things that you see and things that you don't see, things that are tangible and things that are not tangible. So that's why I like for us, whenever we say adhkar or we read certain things, to stop and give it some time to seep in, allow it to process. In some of my sessions in chaplaincy, yesterday a brother, he just spoke for like an hour. And then he's like, okay, I'm gonna stop now. So he goes to a therapist, so he knows some of the lingo. He's like, I'm gonna allow you to process. I'm like, thank you so much. I was about to die if you didn't stop. Because it's some heavy stuff, it's heavy stuff. So why don't we allow the Quran to be processed? The adhkar to be processed. Wallahi, it will be a different experience altogether. Like I know, again, personally, if I make the adhkar very quickly, it's like, okay, sure, I just made my adhkar. So inshallah, I'll get the benefit, I'll receive the protection, all the other good stuff. Okay. But if I just pause and I reflect, I'm like, man, this meaning is so powerful. It's amazing. A lot of my khutab are like that. I'll just, I'm like, let me just look into the meaning of this dhikr. And then the whole khutbah is like one statement. And I'm talking about it for 30 minutes and I'm teaching about it. What does that tell you? But now if I was to do that on my own, not in front of people, and whenever I say it, I'm like, man, what I'm saying is really powerful. So when you say it like you mean it, the effect will be more powerful. So yes, although I may get reward and I may get some protection, but I won't get the multi-layered protection. You see? So may Allah guide us to do that, and also to be around people who do that. Like I've seen a lot of people when they do the adhkar, to me it disturbs me because they don't do justice to it. They either sing it, so then it becomes a song, right? So I studied in Sham, and in Sham they have a tradition of singing the adhkar. So La ilaha illallah, La ilaha, and it's okay. What's going to happen with people now is, and there are some people here that follow that tradition too, people are going to go by the rhyme now, not by the meaning. Allah did not reveal these things for their rhyme, it was revealed for the meaning. That's what makes us human, as we comprehend meaning. Meaning is what impacts us, right? Most people now, they want to operate on a sensory system. So the sensory system is like, well, I like this place because it smells good. I'm completely with you. I love pleasant smells. But is that what Allah wanted you to get out of the place? Right? So there is others who just say dhikr very quickly. You notice those with like older people. So you're just sitting down after salah. Slow down. First of all, you're disturbing my peace. And this is the only time I'll use peace, of course. But like, give me a break. Slow down. Right? Say subhanallah, subhanallah, subhanallah. It doesn't take much. And I'm not even reflecting right now, but just saying it slowly. And recognize that the more amount of time you spend with Allah, the more you are in His company. Like, if I was with you and we're having a conversation and I talk very quickly, you would tell me, Ahmed, slow down. Like, why are you in a rush? Like, I have to catch up I have to watch something. You're like, okay, you don't want to talk to me then. That's all it means. You don't actually want to talk. It's like, no, I really had to tell you this. It's like, no, you didn't. In fact, you just caused damage to my relationship with you. Keep it to yourself and talk to me when you're ready to talk. We do this with Allah. It's like we're just like throwing this burden, the adhkar. Here, I did it. And then I jump to the next activity. Spend time with Allah. It's really a different experience. May Allah guide us to have that, and to be around people who live, the sunnah of dhikr. Because many people say dhikr and they're like, we do dhikr, but There is a sunnah of dhikr, and it's not a Shami sunnah or a Saudi sunnah or an Indian sunnah. It's sunnah of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. How did he do the adhkar? How was he with his Lord sallallahu alaihi wasallam? You know, you hear about some of the scholars, they say they would perform Fajr and they would stay all the way until like the early morning hours. And they were all by themselves in the masjid, but not engaging with anyone, just sitting in the same spot where they performed salah. And then they would tell him, we notice you do this practice consistently. He says, that's my primary meal of the day. If I don't have it, I won't have strength. What was the meal? He didn't eat. Adhkar. No spectacle, no sounds, no cameras, no nothing, just by themselves. You know, we heard stories of some of, you know, our teachers and our scholars, and it's like, man, those people are amazing. Because when you're with them, you wouldn't feel that this is the type of person they are. But they have those special times, and these things, it's good to get them leaked, you know, so you can see that those people, mashallah, are really righteous. May Allah help us to be around the righteous and to allow us to benefit from their company. Yeah, this is something that I encourage us all to seek out, to be around those special people. And again, this is not for show. It's not usually going to be a performance, and it will not be like a lecture. This will be something organic that this person actually does. Because I can do a show right now and make you think that I'm like, what did you call him? Shaman? Is that what it is?
Shamans.
Shaman? Shaman?
Yeah, sort of like soothsayers, right?
Yeah, soothsayers.
I don't know what they do.
Traditional healers, they call them. Traditional healers. And they have them in every culture, by the way, so you know what's going on. They're not calling unto Allah. Who do you think they're calling to? This is the problem when you run away from magic and you go to another magician. طيب, let's do the exercises, or at least start with the exercises. Bismillah. التدريبات. Go ahead, Muna.
التدريب الأول اسم
أنت قل أعوذ برب الفلق. So how did anta get incorporated here? Where do you think it is? قل فعل الأمر. Okay? فعل الأمر. So let's do the first one.
أنتِ قولي
قولي قولي قولي not قولي قولي.
That's قاف ولام ياء.
Yes, I'll write it. Bismillah. قولي. We need to turn it on. Sorry. Yeah, so it says I have 3 people online, but only Maryam spoke to us. So I don't know what happened to the rest of the folks.
Would you prefer every day whoever's watching to announce themselves?
Yeah, just to say salam. I mean, sometimes I know that some sisters do that. Like Fatima does that, Razan does that. They'll just say assalamu alaikum, that's all. Just so I know, you know, like who's there. So I can make dua for them. You know, they say assalamu alaikum, I say wa alaikum salam. That's a dua. If it's Agent Tom, I'll say may Allah guide you too. You know. So. Okay, so quli. Next, Najib.
هنا
Ula, good.
هنا يعود برب الفلق.
طيب, this is a bit tricky. Ula, if I'm telling both of them to say it, the verb is also going to be different. Qula na'udhu, because we're 2 people. Right? Qula na'udhu bi rabbil falaqi. It's a bit tricky. It's like when you tell somebody, say this, and they think the meaning is different. You're just telling them to repeat what you just said, but they think you want them to say this sentence. So, for example, say your name in English. Your name in English is one way of responding. The other one is Najib. طيب. The next one, أنتم, معاذ.
Is it just who?
Huh?
Is it just who?
أنتم. So أنتم is what? How many people?
Multiple people.
Multiple people there, right? You're addressing them. So what would you tell them? So قل is one person. I'm commanding you, I say قل. She said a girl, قولي. He said two guys, I say قولا. Group of people, جمع.
Is it? I'm not sure.
Who knows? قولوا. Yes. قولوا. قولوا. And this is in the Quran. قولوا آمنا بالله وما أنزل إلينا وما أنزل من قبل. This is what Allah commands. Say that we believe in Allah and what He revealed to us and what He revealed before.
So the next one would it be
أنتن.
who?
No. قلنا. أنتن قلنا. قلنا. Okay, next. Iman.
التدريب الثاني أكمل كما المرتجي المبتدئ النفاثات قل أعوذ بالله من شر النفاثات
النفاثات قل أعوذ بالله من شر النفاثات. So this one is going to be very easy because you're going to say the whole sentence. قل أعوذ بالله من شر. All of that, then you're going to add the words that are in the parentheses. Okay? قل أعوذ بالله من شر. Say, I seek God's protection from the evil of, and then you put the word. So go ahead, the first one.
قل أعوذ بالله من شر حاسد إذا حسد وحسد.
قل أعوذ بالله من شر الحاسد إذا حسد. What's الحاسد إذا حسد?
The evil jealousy of
The jealous one. Al-Hasid is fa'il. He's the one who has the envious one.
the envious one, their envy.
By the way, I actually wanted to look these words up. I usually do it in class. Envy and jealousy. So we say these two words in English, but which one closely resembles hasad?
Envy.
You sure?
right? Because envy is when you don't want that person to have that as well. Jealous is you also want that. But
So-
I believe
So look at this. Envy, as a noun, a feeling of discontented or resentful longing aroused by someone else's possessions, qualities, or luck. Verb, desire to have a quality, possession, or other desirable attributes belonging to someone else. Just desiring it. That's not too bad. Right? It's like for me to desire that. So let's see jealousy.
Oh wait, that's envy?
That's envy.
Oh.
Feeling or showing envy of someone or their achievements and advantages. Feeling or showing suspicion of someone's unfaithfulness in a relationship. A jealous boyfriend. That's weird. Fiercely protective or vigilant of one's rights or possessions.
Oh, that totally flips mine.
So we don't have one then in English.
The differentiation.
Yeah.
That one encompasses both like hasad and ghira, right?
Yeah. So there is truth to it. So like there is truth to just having that anger, but it's not just anger. What else is it? So in English right now we haven't found one. Desiring that the person's blessings are gone.
I feel like people just automatically.
Would that be coveting? Because that's in the commandments. That's in the 10 commandments. Don't covet.
I think coveting just means
But
you
don't
want
use
that.
covet anymore.
Yearn to possess or have something. No. That's just like talab. No one uses it, you said, right? Unfortunately. Yeah, so what would be the right word then? Can we look it up in Hans work? What does he do for hasad? So again, what Iman mentioned is what we typically do in our English translations. Typically the word is envy that's used. They use the word envy. I like to combine both. When I started teaching here, when I started investigating these words, I told them I think a combo of jealousy and envy is in order. But then hasad is also something added, which is the desire for that person to also lose their blessing.
He says to envy, grudge. And then to be envious, to envy each other, envy, etc. But he adds grudge.
He only has envy.
and grudge.
What
But that still does not say what the wish and the desire to remove the good from someone.
What did envy mean prior to, I guess, what it means now? What's kind of that?
But-
Historically,
Yeah, maybe historically then.
When you look at the Wikipedia article, when it cites like many things, it actually mentions wishing that the other person doesn't have it. So maybe classically in English or Latin, it had that connotation.
that's in the Wikipedia page.
Yeah.
There's also etymology online that shows that history.
So it says from Latin, invidia is an emotion which occurs when a person lacks another's superiority, quality, achievement, or possession, and either desires it or wishes that the other lacked it. Okay. So let me go. So what I do with Wikipedia,
They have the notations.
yeah, so I go to the footnote. I never just pick it up. And look what it says. This is a paper distinguishing the experiences of envy and jealousy. Where does it come from? Journal of Personality and Social Psychology. We don't consider this only social psychology. This is what? Hasad is one of the diseases of the heart. Hasad is one of the worst diseases of the heart. By the way, people don't consider this, but hasad is worse than adultery, fornication, and drinking. All the diseases of the heart are the worst of major sins. They're worse than killing, according to our scholars. Again, most people have no clue about that. Because most people have spiritual diseases, and it's easy to point the finger, oh no, I'm not like that. So most people, that's what they'll tell you. They're like, yeah, I don't commit major sins. I don't ever hurt anyone. Yeah, You don't hurt them verbally, but I wonder what you think about them in your heart. So hasad, kibr, those are some of the biggest ones, and the most what's the word? When we talk about kaba'ir, those are the kaba'ir of al-riya, kaba'ir of spiritual ailments. Kaba'ir of spiritual ailments. May Allah protect us from them. And by the way, religious people have hasad of each other. Like you're like, so what do these religious people do, man? They don't even know what sinning is. They commit some other sins that you're not aware of. You haven't even covered them yet.
Is it considered hasad though if it's it doesn't want to be taken away, but it wants to reach that? What's the word for that?
We said that's ghibta.
It's a good thought.
That's ghibta. So a quote that was mentioned by one of the scholars a few days ago, and I shared it with the imams. I mean, this one is crazy actually, because subhanallah. Bismillah. So it says that Al-Ghazali rahimahullah mentions of the rights of brotherhood, not the Muslim Brotherhood, because our administration is about to designate them a terrorist organization. So al-ukhuwa, not ikhwan. You got to make that disclaimer from now on whenever you talk about brotherhood. He says the following: this is one of the rights that brothers have with each other Islamically. أن تبلغه ثناء من أثنى عليه, that you inform your brother of the good things that people said about them. مع إظهار الفرح, while showing joy at that. So let's say Sheikh Farhan told me, Mu'adh is this, or Najib is that, or Muna is this, or Iman is that, or Maryam is this. That's the other thing. So I can give examples of people that I know are in class. And it was something praiseworthy. There's options that I have. Either keeping it to myself, something positive. Someone says something good about you, and I bring it to you while being happy about it. Like, I'm so happy that you just got praised, and I'm bringing this up to you. He says that's one of the rights. فَإِنَّ إِخْفَاءَ ذَلِكَ مَحْضُ الْحَسَدِ. He says hiding and concealing that is pure hasad.
But what if you hide it because you don't want to get to the other person's ego?
Yeah.
Thana is not about overpraise. Thana is about something that is within the person. So I'll say, Sarah upstairs in the office told me, mashallah, Iman is so polite. This is not about getting into your ego. And more than anything, the point behind that is for you to know that Sarah likes you. It's not really the attribute. It's that Sarah said something pleasant. What do we usually do?
Overhype the person.
No. We say and we bring and we relay the bad that people have said about our friends. Oh, let me tell you what they said about you yesterday. You weren't around. We do namima. نقل الكلام على وجه الإفساد. Transmitting of words with the intention of ruining relationships. Right? The problem with that is twofold. First of all, how did you witness them slandering the person and just hear it? Why don't you stop them? You were actually participating in that. You were an either active or inactive participant. So let's say somebody said some trash about you, right? If I'm a believer, I'm supposed to stop them and say, I don't agree with this, you should change the subject, I only know good about this person. I cut it right there, nip it in the bud. That's not what people do. What people do is, yeah, because they're trying to be cool with this person too. And then they're like, they take the person, like, man, you don't know what they said about you yesterday. They said this and that about you. What does that cause you to do? Hate this person. The scholars tell us though, and the man, the one who brought you this report, is not your friend. And typically those are your BFFs. Your best friend forever is the one who brings you these words. You're like, man, he spoke about your mother last night. Oh yeah, what did you do about it? If someone brings you news about others, what does that tell you about them? So in Arabic they have an expression, they say, نَاقِلٌ لَكَ نَاقِلٌ عَلَيْكَ. If he's going to relate to you what others have said about you, that means he's also going to do the same from you to others. He's an namam. And that's why namima is one of the most severe sins. It's like, I'm not hurting nobody. I never took anybody's money. You just ruined relationships. You spoke about people's integrity. So namima, ghiba, hasad, and kibr are worse than crimes that people think are universal crimes. Everyone knows that killing is bad. Now, these are worse than killing. May Allah protect us. Yes, ma'am.
So you know how we're not held accountable for feelings and thoughts that are not acted upon? How are diseases of the heart different?
So I'm glad you bring this up. This is so powerful because we are accountable for the feelings and the emotions that we actively participate in. We're not accountable for fleeing thoughts. A thought just comes in, kill someone, disregard it. But I'm fantasizing killing someone. Of course I'm held accountable at that. But again, unfortunately, we've done a poor job of explaining that. So people give this blank statement. You're not held accountable for your feelings and emotions. Including me, I've said that as well. That's not accurate. You are held accountable for the emotions that you allow to continue. So again, I'll talk about something graphic as I usually do. Sexual feelings. Are you held accountable about your fantasies? Yes, if you allow yourself to continue fantasizing, that's someone else's life. You have no consent to fantasize about what you're going to do with them. You're like, but it's just in my mind. I didn't act it out. Yes, you have crossed the bounds. If it comes through your mind, change your mind. Change the topic. Say, A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajeem. Move on. Do it the right way. You have no right to somebody's body, not physically and not fantasy. So unfortunately, most people, when you tell them you're not held accountable for your emotions and your feelings, they think fantasizing is completely fine. That's not correct. Because if you know anything about fantasies are obsessions. And they're compulsive. And the more you allow them to come and seep through, the more they'll take over your life.
Is that considered dishonoring the sanctity of the person?
That's part of it. There's multiple things. There's multiple layers. And then the sanctity of the person, are they a believer? Because then the sanctity of belief is also above and beyond the sanctity of just a human. And then are they a righteous believer? And then you got, again, layers of sanctity. So how many boundaries are you breaking? How many gates are you breaking? Right? So yeah, that's a very good question actually. And I think we need to do a better job at that. Because in trying to help medicate people who have sick desires, we tell them this, but it's not the full story. It's not the full story. Because many people actually just live in their fantasies. And it's not healthy. I think people who have that, they need to really get help. May Allah protect us. Anyway, I thought that was a very nice quote.
So follow up to that question. In my English class, we were learning about different like psycho and analytical theories and stuff. And the professor was saying that like there's this one concept that these evil thoughts that people have is called like the shadow, and you're not supposed to suppress those feelings, or else it's bad.
Say that again?
So basically, like all the bad thoughts that people have, it's called like the shadow. It's like some bad part of you, and you're not supposed to push it away. You're supposed to acknowledge it, but choose not to act upon it.
Yeah, acknowledge it, but don't live with it. Acknowledge is fine. But again, by the way, so what many people look at as psychology is something that our scholars covered in what's called ilm suluk, behavior, also known as tazkiyah. And that's why I said, what? Where do they have this? The Journal of Social Psychology, right? Where do we have it? What journal do we have it in? The books of Tazkiyah al-Nafs, the books of Suluk, the books of Ilal al-Qulub, they call it, the diseases of the heart. May Allah protect us from the diseases of the heart. I think this requires a bigger discussion. I'm glad you brought that up, and I'm going to look into it some more so we can give it its due justice. There's a few things that I fear people have so many misconceptions about, and they use Islam for their misconception. I mean, we've kind of said this here about peace and how that word is so abused, but there's so many other things like that. And I have discussions with scholars about this, and they've been programmed to do it. They're like, it can't be wrong. I'm like, look it up. And they just refuse, and I'm like, just read. And they read, they're like, oh my God. It's like, yeah, we've just been repeating things. And just because everyone says it does not make it correct. طيب. They have a lady here pictured for envy. It says, portrait of a demented woman, or the monomaniac of jealousy. Monomaniac of jealousy, also named the hyena of La Salpêtrière. I don't know what it is, but something French. So look at who they quote in this article. Aristotle. Who is that?
Aristotle?
Aristotle.
You've never heard of Aristotle?
No, I have. Who is he?
He is a...
Aristotle in Arabic. That's his name. No. No, when they translated the work of Greeks, this is one of the people. So like, you have Pluto is like Aflatun. They have their own names. So that's the problem. That's why when these names happen, when there is an Arabic and English, I don't pronounce the English good all the time because I'm more familiar with the Arabic one. Not that I don't know the guy. Aristotle, yes. Good to meet you, mister. He said, defined envy as pain at the sight of another's good fortune, stirred by those who have what we ought to have. So who was he? Who was Aristotle? A philosopher, right? But he's looking at it, is it through revelation? No, that's the difference. By the way, a lot of people are so amazed by these philosophers. These philosophers lived at the same time as Musa alayhi salam. They didn't believe in Musa. They actually, if you read what they say about prophets, they mock the prophets of Allah. They thought they were superior to them. But that's different.
How does Hasad how does somebody's feelings affect the well-being of others?
Well, it's not about the well-being of others. Hasad, number one, burns the individual personally. But hasad means that the person is actually displeased with God's decree. Because in reality, who made her pretty? Who made him rich? Who made that decision? Allah. So if I'm upset with that, who am I really upset with? And that's a matter of belief. That's not a matter of actions anymore. And sins are actions, right? I think our folks are coming now.
But then why does, for example, the pretty person suffer because of that then?
That's different. That's not hasad. The pretty person may suffer because of Ayn. Ayn.
Oh, I thought
Urdu,
those were the same.
nazar, which means nazar. So hasad does not always affect the other person. Hasad combined with ayn may affect the other person. Ayn is a different action.
What is that?
Ayn is you see something that you desire and you say something inappropriate. And then that becomes an attack that the devils use to jump on that person. It's actually words, not looks.
So ayn is something when somebody says something, but hasad is directly.
Hasad is the person, the one who's hating in his heart. They haven't expressed it. So ayn is like an expression of hasad. Everyone has hasad, not everyone expresses it. Some people keep it under control. Some people heal it through religious teachings. Like we're taught, if you see something beautiful, you ask Allah to bless it. That's the opposite of hasad. You're controlling yourself. You're like, may Allah increase them. They're beautiful, may Allah make them more beautiful. May Allah protect them. Right? Okay. So I'll stop here and we're going to have the other folks come and join us. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك.
You know, this is lasting the entire second session.
I believe so. Yes. So yesterday I saw that some of the guys who don't come were here. Are they just coming in late? Is that the issue? I saw Dalen. I saw Kamil. Kamil came and saw me, but Dalen I just saw him leave. That might be a work schedule. Things like that.
So we have to watch you eat. So there's
No, there was no sit down eating a cookie. But there were no cookies back there. Noriega, welcome to 401. مرحبا مرحبا. Welcome. Man, I just had it.
Oh, Monty!
Yeah.
years or so. Whether we go out together, we're going to zikr. We're going to have yeah, we're going to have sheet.
I feel like, because you already keep up your own regular views.
That's not going to leave it.
Yeah, I mean, like, maybe if I was thinking of, like, the regular thing going on, I feel like, it's true for two, to be honest, I think it's because, like, when you're reading, you're kind of, there were two nights where I had to read. So, like, that was, like, you know, that's, like, for the cruise match. Like, most nights will be leading, like, 10 weeks or less. I mean, for anyone who's useful, like, you know, that's like, you but like, I imagine for people who already like keep up, because for me, like, I was so, I was like, and I'm like, dude, what's wrong with me? I would totally get like, to do or something, so like, I feel like it's like, because I left off doing my regular review. But I mean, like, some people find it really good. Guys, they really good. And for me, I think it's because I was like really nervous about it.
I gotta look at the stars,
Yeah.
listen to shits, pray, live with your own way, I'm gonna cook, I'm gonna eat.
Pretty too. It's like, you can't just do like your using 90 miles per hour with your teacher. It's like
Chef, how long do you have until we start? Do you have a few minutes? Okay. I need him.
Barely give them the announcement.
one thing I didn't realize was I always wondered, like, people when they leave, they take the classes, and they do like and stuff. I was just like, why is that here? Why is that here? But like when I started, I realized that was way more. I don't know if there's like how to learn more or something. Yeah, maybe that's why, but I would just like take a lot more pauses and to go back and
There was yesterday became this song.
Yesterday,
It's just outside.
yeah, that's
Last year, how many people were
it depended. Like in the first few nights, I think not many people knew about it, so there was like me included, it was probably 5 people. Yeah, but then like some nights were like we had like I was in the front, so I couldn't see. Like I would like turn around every now and then. There was like 4 of us. So that's probably like what 30 people almost. Yeah, I mean, also people like come for like a date, so like so some of them just came for like a couple days. They probably went back to the regular. So yeah, there's a lot of visitors, like a lot of people that are it depended. Sometimes they did that, sometimes they didn't. It depended on who was there. Like I preferred not doing that. Yeah, because that's just because there's so many differences going on there. It's like fine. So then yeah, it depended on who was there. Do you know who were you leading with?
Those are we'll probably either read a session or the second session or in the middle of your start.
Definitely, you'll be
Close
close
to finishing.
It definitely was like, I think a good experience to get, just like at least one month.
It's the chapter after Cedar. And then
I haven't seen Captain Marvel though. Okay.
Finish
Watch it.
Like I said, I want to watch it. So
the chapter on
it's a pretty.
good summary. Like if I don't
It's
use
just like the
extend you know,
Yeah.
is that I also point to not. Do you see it? Like if I give you a command, how you step and then can you or how you do that? Is it possible to infer that?
It's basically good advice. Yeah.
All the little.
Yeah.
Oh, that's just good.
It's
Pretty much in the text when you look up different watching we do all
Yeah,
like in-depth like
at that time she did
every single they're all their in-depth explanations.
She's looking back the same front of the.
that's a good question.
And the other sports we can see in the
Only the she finished cover to cover without
I don't have
cover. Okay, give me a nice
What's it?
you might just read like a chapter, for example, here.
Is there so much the music cover?
I mean, everyone should have a section on Shemana.
So all of your guys' texts are very good. How much of the actual discussions are going to be Oh, is that right?
We're having a session with all the classes.
Oh, sorry.
Exactly. We're gonna do it, but
She had another
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
And it's like not people,
yes, and now we're just about just narrations no, so when you
It's like I just found this twice, that's what he is.
Like I know.
He's like, yeah, I'm like,
I'm
I'm like, wait, no, I'm like, we talking this.
not
Doesn't mean he's gonna do it. It's like, well, I'm down for anything, but
he takes everything.
we'll see what happens.
And then after that, we move to just super, just short and basic. So on top of that, whatever we
This is Frank Down or semester?
yeah, they're
So on the days that you're not leaving, are you still leaving? Or are you leaving?
Probably not everything, but as much as I can. If not, I'll just for the
When is,
So it's gonna be the time.
which day? This is what we have a show for us to enjoy, who hopefully is
leave them
One
on
part that's leaking.
that.
no. I don't know what that means. What do you mean?
Allah Akbar.
والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وبعد. Inshallah, everyone is doing well. Alhamdulillah, we are very quickly approaching the end of our school year. Very, very soon. The official end date of the school year is May 24th, which means we have less than a month left. And even within that month, it's going to be a bit hectic and busy because Ramadan is starting, inshallah, very soon as well. So I wanted some of our more senior and experienced students to share their experiences with you and how they, mashallah, survived for the last 3, 4, or 5 years and how they were able to balance between studying in the seminary and pursuing their degrees at universities or even working and pursuing study at the same time, and to hopefully serve as some sort of encouragement and create some zeal and enthusiasm within our newer students, and perhaps they can provide some guidance and some tips and inshallah some encouragement. And I had a request for the teachers not to be in here. Yes? Not to be in here. So they can be more candid and open, inshallah.
So just go in the next room.
Yeah,
we live stream.
We won't do that, but we'll excuse ourselves. We'll be next door. But when you guys are done, inshallah, just call us back, and then we'll share some thoughts as well, inshallah. So we're going to have our 5th year students, Mudathir, Haidar, and Aisha address all of you, as well as our 3rd year students, Sarah and Fatima, inshallah. All right?
Moderate.
You can moderate.
Please take it easy on them.
Well, that's
They had a rough section this morning.
I'll keep it up. They gotta bring me from the shoes.
Would you be more comfortable with those like questions?
No, he already has a whole document set up. He already has this. He knows.
How should we sit?
A panel up there.
Should we do that now?
Just keep it.
Are we what?
You're recording it?
Did he turn it on before he left?
You should, right? Because a lot of the kids are not Thursday.
Yeah.
Not that one, that one, it was like a third one.
It's streaming. I think Shefferhan turned it on.
So just make sure the kids sit.
And maybe explain it to the camera.
Yeah, there you go.
It's gonna be right on.
I know.
Are you guys taking turns between your and? No, I'm not.
Should I go?
Just go to the big space.
Should I go closer to you?
Up to you guys.
Bismillah, alhamdulillah, wa salatu wa salamu ala rasulillah. Like Sheikh Muhammad said, this is just more to give the youngins of you all to, be energized. To give you guys a little background, right? So in regular school, you have three tiers. You have unsatisfactory, you have satisfactory, and then and then outstanding, right? So here in IOK we also have that, just with different letters, right? So you have NT, which is no talab, right? Which means you're unsatisfactory. Then there's not really middle categories, maybe just T or whatever, which means you're like satisfactory. Then you got TT, that means you got too much talab, right? And this all comes from so my first and second year was with the only people that are left from my year are me and Anas now. There was maybe like 15 people in those first 2 years. And then after, our classes got combined. And during that time, Sheikh Farhan, has anyone seen Sheikh Farhan really get mad? Not really, probably. But he would come into our class like every week and just be like, guys, what is wrong with you? Because these were young kids and they didn't study for seminary. They also didn't study for college too much. So he'd just be like, you guys are that. You're not doing good in seminary, okay, and you're not doing good in regular school either. So you have the worst of both worlds, right? If you're gonna be good at one at least. And a lot of them, they also wanted to, we want to go to this country and study there and do this over there and do this over there. He's like, you can't do that here. You're definitely not going to be able to do that over there. And he would always tell us, you guys need to have a lot of flood. You guys need to have this burning desire and burning need to want to study and learn, right? And for most people, that obviously starts with gaining a complete mastery of, knowing Arabic in and out, right? So most of you are in first year, I guess, here. So really just, especially during the summertime, when you guys actually start to read and do a lot of that, you should be able to just read whatever is in front of you. You should just go out of your way to read it. Like vocab, grammar, sarf, all of these things should just be like second nature to you guys. Because if that is there, then everything you do after that will become so much easier. And that's one thing you completely see in seminary over and over again, where each year that goes by is only going to build on the years before, right? So you don't want to be in year 2 and be like, wait, what's like Mawsuf Sifa again, or what's like Mudaf ilayh, right? You don't have time for that anymore. You're now trying to read, right? And the same thing, everything that builds up, everything you do in ulum, Quran, and hadith, right? Then when you get to reading those books that come later on, you don't want to be learning the stuff from the year before, right? So those of you that are going into year 2 next year, right? Next year you're going to be Safat al-Tafasir, you're going to be doing Quduri, and you're going to be doing Riyadh al-Salihin, right? So these 3 things are the foundational things of the sciences you'll learn every single year after that, right? So if you're doing Quduri, and you do, have you guys done the Centricity yet?
Doing it right now, sort of.
So right now, or even on your free time, you guys should literally have that book like the back of your hand, right? Like, no questions asked, Because then when you get to Quduri, you don't want to be learning like, oh, I didn't know this. Quduri is now for you to figure out, okay, Abu Hanifa said this, Muhammad said this, Abu Yusuf said that, Zufar said that, right? So Ascent Felicity will give you, hey, these are the rules. Quduri will then give you a little bit more of the difference of opinion, right? And then when you go to the books after that, you don't want to be in Hidayah and be like, wait, I don't know the opinions. You want to already know the opinions. Now you want to know, okay, why do they have these opinions, right? Same thing when you do Hadith, right? When you do Riyadh al-Salihin, everything from when you cover like wudu and salah, when you cover intention, when you cover tawbah and all of these things, right? Those things you should already have, those concepts should already be set in your brain. So then when you go to Mishkat, and then when you go to Tirmidhi, when you go to Bukhari, Muslim, you're not worried about the hadith anymore. You're not worried about the wording anymore. You're not worried about the fiqh anymore. Now you're only looking at what are the differences of opinion and how do they use each hadith, right? Every single year you do not want to be learning what you're supposed to learn the year before, right? If you come to Tirmidhi and you're like, wait, I don't know what the Hanafi opinion is, what the Shafi'i opinion is, what the Maliki opinion, what the Hanbali opinion is. That's what you're supposed to do in Mishkat, right? Now when you're in Tirmidhi, now you're supposed to argue the narrations, right? And so do whatever you're supposed to do in that year, do that, and just master it. When you come prepared for Safa, when you come prepared for Qudur, when you come prepared for Riyadh al-Salihin, you should be able to, in your mind, you should have the intention of, I will be able to, teach the class. If it was just all of the students who were just to go one by one and teach each book, I would be able to do that. I would be able to cover all the difficult words. I'd be able to read this text properly. I'd be able to give a decent explanation. of what we're reading right now, right? And to give you an example of how we ended up doing that, when we did Safwa Riyadh al-Salihin in Quduri, I think some of the people in our class, we'd spend probably 2 hours prepping for each one of those books. And this is writing out the full translation of everything we're doing in Safwa, full translation of all the hadith we're doing in Riyadh al-Salihin, and then Quduri would be looking over and knowing just understanding the topics that we're going to cover. So that what that did is, and we read that 5-6 times at home, right? So in class, when we read it, we're literally just like, it's low-key memorizing our brains. Like that page of Safwa, that page of, Riyadh al-Salihin, right? Because we read those hadith over and over again, prepping at night, right? So that way, when you're in class, your goal should be, I'm not going to learn anything like out of the book. Book is done. I did the book at home. I'm here to learn from the teacher and learn what the teacher is saying, right? And right, the same thing when you put all of your hawashi, all of your footnotes that you'll get in Quduri, like read as many of those as you can. You're gonna be like, hey, I don't know half of it. I don't care, just read it. Just you need to practice reading the words you'll pick up, and for the things that you're held accountable to read and translate, like in Safwa Riyadh al-Salihin, just obliterate your dictionaries. If you're like, oh, I still don't know what the hadith means, go fine, go to sunnah.com, read it, right? Get the translation, write it down, but do that work on your own. Because again, when you do, and this is like the biggest reason to be doing these things. When you go that hard in your second year of I'm gonna just read the heck out of Riyadh al-Salihin, I'm going to know that book as much as I can, right? You have a good understanding of a lot of the words in hadith now. When you go to Mishkat, you're not going to be worried about, oh, I haven't read the hadith, I don't know what this means, You've already done most of that work before. So now in Mishkat, you can work on the few harder words, and now you can work on getting the fiqh out of it. Right? Then when you go into Tirmidhi and Abu Dawud and Muslim and Bukhari, now you're really not worried about the words. I already know all the words. Yes, some stuff will come up, but now I'm really worried about what are the differences of opinion and how does each madhab use each narration for their own opinion. Right? So all the work that you do in the early years will pay off in the years later. As if you're in Bukhari, you're just like, dude, I don't know how to translate this hadith. Well, then you're not going to get any of the benefit you're supposed to be getting out of that book, right? And that now, how do we practically do that? Like we said, when it comes to the books next year, pick 1 or 2 from each class, each teacher that you have, and just spend at like minimum like 1 hour per like major book, right? Safwa, Riyadh al-Salihin, Quduri, like 1 hour per like minimum. Read it like 3 times. If you're like too lazy to type out a translation, just say the translation out loud to yourself when you're like studying. So now what does that also say? Yeah, every single night you have to dedicate time to study. You have to prepare what you're going to read tomorrow. Like that's like fun. That's like literally fun. If you do not, you're gonna come to class and just be like, I don't even know what the words in this page are. And then now the step before that is, what does that mean you have to do in class? You gotta be in class. You gotta be in time. You gotta be in class on time. The last 4 years, alhamdulillah, never been late. Never been late. Straight up. Right? It takes dedication. It takes time. Yeah, alhamdulillah, I live super close. That's not a problem. And it gets difficult, right? But you have to make sure your priorities are straight. What are the things that you want to focus on? Yeah, we all had school. We were all in school together, but 3 of us. We literally went to school at the same time, And we'd all leave at the same time, and we'd all low-key be racing to get back to UCI at the same time, Right? These are things that we all did. But you know what? We were still there every single day. But what about classes? You know what? We wouldn't schedule classes during that time. If we did have class, guess what? We wouldn't go to class. I distinctly remember a day. It was finals week, right? And I was like, I'll go take my final at like I think 8 a.m. and I'll be able to make it back to class. I came back to class and other people who I knew had a final, I saw them driving in and I was like, dang. We literally both had a morning final and we gunned it back to IOK, right? And yeah, it's putting priorities. Is it that we don't care about school? No, we graduated and we all did well. Alhamdulillah, Right, but it's putting things into complete priority. And another very, very important thing is that, oh, I'll be able to memorize Quran later, I'll be able to study later, I'll have the rest of my life to read hadith. No, you don't. Your life won't start until you graduate college, right? Everyone's going to consider you in a category of, oh, they still haven't started their life because they're still in college or something like that, or they haven't started working yet, right? But if you're like, oh, I didn't finish seminary, everyone's already going to think your life already started, right? This seems like a happy picture, oh, I can come later and do it. If you do, you think you'll be able to give the same time, the same effort, the same energy? You won't. It's almost sad. The amount of sleep I used to have and the amount of sleep I need now, it's been 4 years. It's like double and triple, right? Your body will need to cope with, your young age and growing older, But spend as much time as you can now, right? When you're like, oh, I can do it when I'm done with college or when I start working or after I'm working, when I retire, you don't have time for that. You don't have time for that. The way your mind works now, the amount of benefit you can take from it now, the amount of late nights you can put in, the amount of sacrifice you can make now. If you don't show up to a week of your class at college, it's okay, no one cares. If you don't show up to work, that's the problem. If your family's like, hey, we haven't seen you, and your kids are like, what do you do? And you have these things in your family where you're like, dude, having that balance, that's way more difficult. But you guys are still young and don't have too many things on you, right? So just grind as literally hard as you can right now. Yeah, as the years go by, year 1 to year 2 to year 3 to year 4 to year 5, you yourself will slightly get tired. More stuff will come in your life. So the harder you try now, the easier it'll make it for later. Also, one thing, literally coming here, you will literally get extra guardians. I remember one time, one of the students in our class didn't come to class and he got into a fender bender or something. And I said, oh, that's because they didn't come to IOK. And the teacher was like, dude, what the heck? Why are you saying that? And just to clarify, I didn't say that in the sense that he didn't come to IOK, so the adab was that he got into a fender bender, right? It's he coming to IOK every day gave him afiyah and protection from getting into fender benders every single day, Get more gas mileage, you need less sleep, you need less food. Literally coming to IOK is actually just more luck, straight up. Also, another big thing. Why are people on their phones in class? Why? If it's a dictionary, you're looking up something great, fantastic, do that. If you're texting, you're on Instagram, you're on Facebook, you're WhatsApp. What are the people in here in front of you saying? God is saying X, Y, and Z. The Prophet ﷺ is saying X, Y, and Z. What are you looking on your phone that's more important than that? 4 hours, can you not be distracted? I think that really kind of one of the highlighting things of this is what you'll get whatever you put in. If you spend 4 hours in class completely uninterrupted, you spend 4 hours at night completely uninterrupted, and you just study and you grind, right? You'll completely see a whole different takeaway of what you get compared to maybe what people that aren't putting in that much time. And I think one final thing, one of the other things I want to say is, you guys should really be doing that. Everything in terms of striving and making sure you're on time and you're in class every single day and you're studying as literally as hard as you can. And one of the reasons that I say that is because you are going to tell people, or people will know that you go to IOK. People will say, oh, you go to IOK, oh, you're an IOK student, right? If they're like, bro, you're an IOK, and I ask you do I have to do wudu up to here, wudu up to here, and you're just like, you have to make wudu. No, you memorize a sentence felicity, right? I don't think that's a hard, not literally, but that should not be something hard. So when people ask you these basic things, you just be able to boom, 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 boom. Right? So when people are like, oh, hey, you go to IOK, they ask you something, and you're just like, bro, this guy goes to IOK and doesn't know anything. This guy goes to IOK and can't read salat. This guy goes to IOK and he's doing this or that, or they're doing whatever. So take your responsibility on yourself. When you say, I go to IOK, and you're doing something weird, you're doing something whack, or you don't know what you're doing, or you're just talking about the randomest, dumbest things, what are people going to think about all of our teachers here? Hey, these guys aren't teaching, these guys don't teach well, IOK is some weird madrasa school, where they don't teach anything, they just... love this place and give this place like the respect and honor that it deserves. You know, give it that due of I'm going to represent IOK and I'm going to do it as best as I can. Yeah, I think that's a good overview. You know, just in Ramadan, you know, grind. Do as much Quran as you can in Ramadan. I think one of the things that obviously this program doesn't do is help you with Quran, right? Those of you that don't already have Quran or whatever, go to something. Like Quran like is a must, right? It may be sooner or later you give khutbahs or you're giving classes. You don't want to be like on the minbar and be like, you know, alhamdulillah, or when you start salah, you're just like, you can't, no, practice from now, you know. And in summer, when you guys have your full Arabic class, just like, you know, kill it. The long babies. That's all I have to say.
Yeah, so just basically picking off of some stuff that he already said. I was planning on just like it being whatever, but anyways. Yeah, so the segue that he gave about like, you know, really grinding on Arabic, that's something that like from the start I really want to emphasize is something that's so very ridiculously insanely important. Just having a solid handle on the Arabic language, being able to read it properly, being able to understand what you're reading, being able to, just because literally the first year is really just designed for that, really just for getting your Arabic skills on par with what they need to be in order to read the books that you read, you know, second year and so on and so forth. So just some like actual practical tips on how to really get your Arabic strong. The first thing is, honestly, I think the reason why second year is so useful in terms of the books that you read is because they are all Arabic books also, and they really just, you get to read a lot. And so like, just simply reading as much as you possibly can helps so much with your Arabic. Reading out loud, reading with someone. Like all of our shuyukh here, a lot of them have like office hours. Read with them in office hours. Read to one of us if you want to. But just reading is so important to get your Arabic skills to where they need to be. And they need to be very, very, very high if you want to get stuff out of your books. Because that's really the Arabic language is really the door to everything else you do here at IOK. If that Arabic door is still closed or it's only open a little bit, there's literally only so much you can go past in terms of your study of this theme. So even if you're like really smart, if you like you said, study and memorize a sense of felicity as best as you can, but keep in mind that that book is in English. So even if you have a sense of felicity and memorize like the back of your hand or you know it super well, you will not be able to get as much as you can if you do not, out of your other fiqh books, if you do not know Arabic well. So that's something from the start, just if there's one thing that you want to focus all of your studying time on, it has to be Arabic. Has to be Arabic. Because again, what he was saying about, you know, representing IOK and stuff like that, like we do not want IOK to be known for having students that don't know how to read Arabic properly. Because Arabic is something that pretty much every school studies in their first year, right? And so it's not an elementary science, but it's a very introductory science that you have to know really well right from the front, or else it's honestly embarrassing to not be able to be in like upper years and not be able to read Arabic properly or read it well or to make basic mistakes. So Arabic really just grind really hard on that specifically because that's the door to everything else. So read as much as you possibly can. Our library is full of so many books. You don't even need to like be interested in the science or whatever. Honestly, just pick up a book and start reading it from the first page, or open to a random page and start reading, just so you can get that practice of how to read, how to look at a book and not have any of the markings there, and just get a feel for that and read it with someone so that they can correct you. Another tip for Arabic is to listen to Arabic. Like, you know, go on YouTube and listen to, not Quran, but listen to like Arabic lectures and Arabic talks so that you can get a feel for how Arabic sounds and flows and everything like that. So really listen to Arabic a lot too, Arabic lectures, and that'll help you with your understanding of Arabic as well. For those of you that drive to IOK, I used to do this a lot and I think that helps a lot, but practice your verb forms in the car, to and from IOK. like all of you guys are familiar with like the verb charts and stuff like that. Really just like every single day from the time you leave your house to the time you get to IOK, do those verb forms. And just like be able to do like everything in like one breath. And I know it sounds something that's just like, oh, that sounds like what they used to do back home. There's no really like benefit to that because it's just like rote memorization. But there honestly is huge, huge, huge benefit to doing so, because even though it seems dumb, it's gonna help you with your reading, because you're gonna read a word and you're gonna know exactly how it sounds because you've said it a million times. And it's so ingrained in your brain that you cannot make a mistake on that. So practice your verb forms in the car. It'll really help you so much. And in the car is great because you literally can't be doing anything else except drive or listen to something else. So spend that time to really build up your Arabic skills, practice as much as you can in the car. And then, again, what he was saying about your studies in your early years, just like re-emphasizing that everything you do in your first and second year and your third year also when you do Mishkat, I would say the 2 books that you should graduate seminary absolutely mastering and being able to teach on demand whenever anybody asks you to is Quduri and Mishkat. Mm-hmm. Those 2 books, you have to be absolute masters of those books. Like memorize parts of them literally. For Quduri, like alhamdulillah, the books that we get have crazy amazing hawashi. Read every single one of them. Read every single one of them. Know all the nitty-gritty details of everything. Because everything that you do in Quduri, all the books that you do afterwards, just build off of that. So if you have Quduri completely mastered and you'd be confident teaching it whenever anybody asks you to, that will be a huge service for the rest of all your studies. Same thing with Mishkat. And Mishkat is tough, right? It's longer, there's a lot more things because of the hadith and there's a fiqh and like all these differences in things. Mishkat also, really, really, really important foundational book for the rest of your studies, for the rest of your hadith studies and the rest of your fiqh studies also. There's like a number of commentaries on Mishkat that we have in the library. The hawashi for your Mishkat books are awesome too. Reading outside sources should be, not now, but once you get older, that should be a regular part of your daily preparation, right? Preparing your section that you need to read, obviously, but also doing stuff outside of the books you have to read as well. Like one of our teachers taught us in like our really early years that everything that you do in the classroom is great and it's wonderful, but what will really set you apart from everybody else is what you do outside of the classroom, is what you do outside of the curriculum. So everything that the teachers do not assign to you, that's what you should be really like striving to get access to reading those commentaries, to reading all the different shuruh and things that other scholars have said about the actual text that you're reading. So making sure that you do those things, that also helps with your Arabic. It also it's a really huge benefit to knowing Arabic really well, so you'll have access to all these different books. So those 2 books, Quduri and Mishkat, those, I cannot stress enough how important it is to know those 2 books extremely, extremely, extremely well. Riyadh al-Salihin and Safwa, they're great for building up your Arabic skills. Again, like what you do in your later years will build off of those, but not as much as Quduri and Mishkat do. But those books are great for Arabic and for translating and stuff like I said earlier. So really just the first early years to build a really strong foundation is super, super, super important, because everything that you do afterwards, you won't be able to benefit from it as much if your foundation isn't strong. So making sure that those foundational books are really, really, really like ingrained in your brain and that you study the heck out of them is so important, and you'll be able to gain so much more out of your studies in your later books also. What? Oh, does anybody have any questions?
What's Quduri?
Okay, so sorry, I was thinking that we probably should define those. So Quduri is the first all-Arabic book on Islamic law that you will study. So in Quduri, there is only the Hanafi positions and just the rulings themselves. So this is fard. Wudu goes up to here for your arms. This is like, all the things. So it's very like basic. It's just like that, like the rulings themselves, what they actually are. No reasoning, no proofs, none of that. Those are all things that will come in the later books. So Quduri is like the first all-Arabic text of Islamic law that you'll read. Mishkat al-Masabih is a hadith book, and it's like a comprehensive hadith book that takes hadith from like Bukhari, Muslim, Tirmidhi, Abu Dawood, and like a bunch of other ancillary hadith texts as well.
It's a Jamia.
It's a Jamia.
It's a Jamia.
Oh yeah, you guys took a test on that recently, right?
Has collections of hadiths from different hadith.
Just start. So nothing. Even if you don't know the answer, just start saying things. That'll help you build up what the answer could be. You know, that'll help you think and critically think on the spot. Right. So you know what the word jama' means. You know jamia. She said it's a collection of all things. So maybe mention some.
About a particular rule.
So we have fiqh in there. Good. Tafsir.
Nice.
Opinions of the scholar.
Fiqh. That can go to fiqh. Maghazi, yeah. Maghazi, wars and jihad.
Do you guys remember the number? How many topics are in there?
12.
Close.
Just keep mentioning other things. What else is there?
Should I?
Manaqib and character, Manaqib and praise with Fadail. 3 or 4. Like just think about straight up topics.
Purification.
That's
Oh man.
Or purification of what? Not the body, of the heart. Okay, so you have adab and asbab. Really helpful to get that here. Yes, iman, faith, aqidah. We kind of have iman is like what you start with, and then
Actions.
that's fiqh.
So Salah and all those things go into fiqh. Like
Yeah,
Salah,
everything
Salat,
is- yeah, everything.
Hajj, all that goes into fiqh. So Iman is going. We already mentioned jihad, right? Even though that's part.
That's a lot of center fiqh. I mean, the world's got to come to an end someday, right?
Day of judgment.
Yeah, Day of Judgment, the Shah Sa'a, you know.
We see Fadail already.
Yeah,
Angels. So.
iman.
When I go, what about the stories of the Anbiya? Like these.
That's an amen.
Iman. Homework is to figure out the rest.
Yeah, so in a nutshell, yeah. So Mishkat is like, it's a jamia, so it has like, covers every single topic of hadith that exists. And it's like, it's the foundational text that schools in the subcontinent start with before they go into Dawra, which is like when they do all the like major hadith texts. Bukhari, Muslim, Abu Dawood, Tirmidhi, etc., etc. So before you dive into those, they study Mishkat first. So that's like the introduction. It covers a little bit of everything. So you learn all of the. You spend the purpose of Mishkat is to get a taste for everything that will come in the future books. And then the purpose of the future books is to see, okay, why is Bukhari unique? Why is Muslim unique? Why is Abu Dawud unique? And to figure out that like how each book is like special in their own way. But Mishkat is like gives you a taste of everything in one book. So yeah, those two books, Quduri and Mishkat, really important to master those. Also, again, in terms of your studying and how it's so important to have that really like on beast mode your first initial years is, there's no real like study, there's no real like break or vacation for a student of knowledge. Like even though we have like set breaks in our schedule, like for a student, like you never really take a break in terms of like studying and reading and doing stuff at home. Even though there are days where you don't come to class, physically, there still has to be that level of, yeah, I need to review this, I need to do this again, I need to prep for the, whatever. I want to just read this just because, right? That studying has to be something that's always constant, because if you leave it off even for like a day, it's like Quran. If you don't review it every single day, you're gonna get, shaky on it. So doing like studying, reading, prepping, reviewing, and stuff like that has to be done every single day. Because if you do that, then you'll move on to a next stage where there will also be no break, which is being a resource for the community, which is what like all of our teachers here do. Like, you know how doctors, they have like a few days out of the month where they're on call, and so they basically have to have like their pager or their phone on them 24/7 to be called into the hospital whenever they get called. Like, that's like the same thing for like a student of knowledge or for like, a scholar, is that they're constantly always on call. They always have to be ready to answer questions, to be a resource for people. Whenever people have like, anything that they like, have a question about, whatever, they should know that they should be able to go to you and you'll be able to answer it like stat. So like always being on call, and right now when you guys are studying, prepping yourself to always be on call, because you can only like, have someone text you a random question at 3 a.m. and they say, I need to know in like 10 minutes. You'll only be able to answer in those 10 minutes if you spent like, the early years really grinding and studying constantly, like, oh yeah, this is what you need to do to like, do hustle or whatever, right? So whenever people ask you things, you want to study in such a way right now that you can be a resource for people that they know that they can go to for a quick, solid answer for whatever they need in the future. And that's a role that is so needed in our community, and it's so valuable. Like, everybody wants to have like someone that they can go to for these things, and it's such a rewarding role to be in as well, to be able to have other people know that they can come to you for whatever questions they have, and you'll answer it for them. And then, okay, so kind of switching subjects from studying and just talking about stuff that we as students of knowledge do personally, and what is really important for us to do personally. As students of knowledge and people that are studying like full-time and studying as much as we do, it's really important that all of our like ritual acts of worship are top-notch, on point, solid. Obviously doing everything that is fard, right? But then in addition to that, going above and beyond and doing extra. That's another thing that I cannot emphasize its importance enough. Because the only way that you'll be able to actually benefit from what you are learning every single day is if you have that close, personal, intimate relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in ways that nobody sees. So as students of knowledge, we have that, it's like an obligation of clients that we have to do the extra. We have to do more than what the average person does. We have to do things that are above and beyond what is, the bare minimum of what we're required to do. And that is so important, and it'll help you so much in your studies at IOK. It'll help you so much in your studies outside of IOK. And like, from us speaking from personal experience, it really does make a huge difference, right? If you, take that time out to cultivate a personal, close relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then He will allow you to like really take what you're learning and be able to benefit yourself and be able to benefit the community around you as well. And that like, extra worship that you do is what's going to be able to set you apart from everybody else as well. So like, really honestly making sure that like, there's a story of this one teacher or this one sheikh of the past, and he would have students, and then every time he found out that a student didn't pray at night, like didn't do the Tahajjud Qiyamul Layl, he would kick that student out and he wouldn't teach him, because he would say, I'm spending my time, taking out my time to teach you all this stuff. If you're not praying at night, nothing like going into your heart, you're not benefiting anything out of it. So he would kick them out of their class. We don't have that policy here, alhamdulillah, but I'm saying like it's so important that we do those extra things, like praying at night, like fasting during the day, like making Quran a part of your daily schedule, like making salawat a part of your daily schedule. All of these things, they're so important to actually get that light out of what you're studying. And there's a Yeah, so there's a like a analogy that we learned in our first year, specifically in regards to Dobai, but I think it it applies to studying knowledge as well, of your heart as a cup and all of the sins and bad things and bad habits that we may have as urine, and as the knowledge that we study and everything that we get at IOK as milk. So the analogy is that if you have a cup, which is your heart, and it's full of urine, right? That milk, if you put that milk into that glass full of urine, that milk is going to become nasty, and it's not going to taste like milk. If you drink, it's going to be gross and like bad, right? That milk, once you put it into that heart full of bad stuff, it's not going to stay milk anymore, right? So the first thing that you need to do before you do that is you take the cup and you pour out all the urine first. You pour out all that najasa, you pour out all that nasty stuff. Meaning, you cut out sins. You stop doing it. You try your absolute hardest to stop whatever bad habits you have. You try your hardest to quit whatever bad things you might have been accustomed to before IOK or whatever. So pouring out all that bad stuff is like the first step. But then once you have this empty cup that used to have urine in it, if you pour the milk in right after, it's still nasty because the cup is still gross. Right, so after you pour out the urine, you have to scrub and clean and wash that cup. And wash it and scrub it really well because the urine's nasty, right? It's gross. So that scrubbing and cleaning and all that stuff is tawbah. Is doing your istighfar, is building that relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, praying at night, fasting, sadaqah, Quran, dhikr, salawat. All of that stuff is scrubbing and cleaning that cup. Right? And only once you scrub and clean and wipe that cup up clean and it's like a new cup again, then when you pour that milk in, that milk will be good and clean and pure and taste good. Right? So that's a really I think important example for us that if we want to actually have clean, pure milk without any impurities or any defects in it, then we gotta pour the urine out of our cups first and scrub and clean that cup like crazy, because that's the only way that we can benefit from the milk at the end of the day, by building that relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and making sure that that stuff for us is always top priority. There was something that going again on pouring out the urine out of our cups. IOK should, the intent is IOK should do something to how people view you and how people interact with you and how they love you, essentially. It should affect your relationships in a positive way. Right? IOK should, if you're reading and you're studying and you're learning and you're gaining and you're benefiting, it should manifest itself in your actions and how you interact with other people. The goal is for people to love you more and appreciate you more and want to be like you more after you graduate from IOK, or even after you're in IOK. Day to day, people should notice that benefit in you. Hey, they started becoming really nice and really friendly and smiling more and being really kind and helping me so much more since they had this IOK thing, because that'll also make people inclined towards that as well, inclined towards studying. So I remember one time when we were in MSU, which is the Muslim group at UCI. I don't know if you guys know what that is. Yeah, pretty much everyone here went to UCI, not everybody. I remember we had he was giving a class actually, and I think it was in the middle of AZW maybe. It's anti-Zionism week where everyone's just doing all this MSU stuff. And he was saying that, if you're in this organization and you're planning events and you're making posters and you're attending meetings and you're attending classes and doing all this stuff, but you go home and you yell at your parents, every single thing that you're doing is an absolute complete waste. Zilch. If you do all this stuff, spending 4 hours a day at IOK, but you do not respect your parents, complete waste of time. Totally. Right? Because that is the bare minimum for this to be beneficial at all in the first place. To have whatever relationship you have that people have rights upon you for, they're so important, and they have to be really, really, really cultivated and taken care of, and making sure that whoever has rights upon you, those rights are fulfilled. Because again, if you don't, that's just adding urine into your cup, right? And making that milk getting more and more tainted and making it not as clean as you would want it to be. And he talked about this also about representing IOK. And I want to take it a step further than that and say that as a student of knowledge, you're not only representing IOK, but you're also representing Islamic scholarship as a whole. And I cannot say how huge of a burden that is. Like, it's tough. If you really think about how, like, you know, I'm a student of knowledge at IOK, like, whether you like it or not, people are going to look at you as an example. Like, I never wanted to be looked at as an example. I'm like terrible, but like people will do it and they'll be like, oh, I saw so and so doing this, so that must be okay, right? Think about the Prophet ﷺ. Like, people would like watch his every move and take that as an example, right? That's a crazy, insane burden because again, it just means you're constantly on call. Like, it just means you're constantly like, you know, have to be top notch, the best you can possibly be because people are going to look at that and they're going to be like, okay, so that's Islam. Right? So really taking that into account into how we interact with each other, how we dress, how we talk to people, how we interact with others, how we, you know, the places we go to, the stuff we do for fun, like people are going to look at that. And it sometimes honestly sucks because you don't get to do stuff that you used to do, right? There's a story of, I think it was Imam Malik, rahimahullah, where he, you know, his like, you know, normal like clothes that he would wear at home was like kind of like a t-shirt. If you think about it as like a t-shirt, like just like an old like cotton type like soft thing. And when he would go out into public, he would wear like a nice robe type thing, right? So because people of knowledge, they have that on, they have that respect. And then so like, you know, his close friends, they were just like, oh, you know, you're wearing this like, you know, nice, you know, outer cloak thingy. And he would be like, this is what I do for the people. When I'm at like, you know, by myself is when I wear my home clothes. So even the way we dress, right, people are going to look at that and like, you know, they're going to associate that with Islamic scholarship and they're going to associate that with the deen, right, which is a huge burden. But that's something that all of us as students of knowledge, we're undertaking. And it's really rewarding. Even though it's tough and it's hard, right, people are going to like look at you do stuff and sometimes might even call you out and they're going to be like, oh, and you're studying Islam? And it's going to hurt a lot, right? But it's going to be a reminder to you as well that, yeah, they're right. Like, I, you know, laughed really, really obnoxiously loud. I shouldn't have done that, right? You know, stuff like that. Like, even just like little things are going to be like, oh, wow, like, you're a student of deen, and you're going to be like, oh, yeah, you know, take a step back and be like, I need to like, you know, set my standards higher again. Having adab with your teachers. This is something that's also really important. We learned, I think, in our third year, we were reading Isra, I think, tafsir, and then we were talking about basically ways that your teachers have more rights on you than your parents. They don't. But they were just giving examples of like, this is a way that your teachers could have more rights upon you than your parents. And they were talking about how, you know, your parents, they bring you from, you know, heavens to the earth, and your teachers, they're the ones that take you from earth into the heavens, right? Your parents are the ones that, you know, prepare you for everything that you need in this dunya. They give you food, they give you clothes, they give you shelter. Your teachers are the ones that prepare you for everything that you need in the akhirah, right? All these different ways that your teachers, like, they are the literal cause for you, like, reading hadith every day. That in and of itself is just like, they have so many rights upon us, our teachers. They're saying in Arabic that that whoever teaches me a letter, I become a slave to that person, right? And that just shows that how much rights our teachers have upon us, because they're teaching us way more than just letters, right? They're teaching us deen, they're teaching us how to worship Allah properly, right? They have so many rights upon us. So having adab with your teachers in terms of whenever they ask you to do something or they ask you to come to something, even if it's like forum, if your teachers like, you know, they send that email out to everybody, they say, hey, come to forum. You come to forum, whether like, you know, go, like do whatever you absolutely can to get your butt there if your teachers want you there. I remember one time in our first year, or maybe it was our second year, we were taking like a class picture, and I really didn't want to be in the class picture. So I was just like, yeah, I'm gonna sit out. And there's another girl in my class also, and she sat out. And I remember one of our teachers, Sheikh Omar, he like just came in and he was like, oh, you're not gonna be in the class picture? And I was like, no, I don't want to. And he just like looked down and walked out. And I was like, what am I doing? What the heck is wrong with me? So then I like bolted out of the room and I got into the class picture. Like, you do not want to disappoint your teachers, even for something silly like being in a class picture, right? You want to make them happy with you, proud of you, the way you want your parents to be that way with you as well. So always trying to strive and struggle to make your teachers happy with you, make them pleased with you, the way you do so for your parents, with the assumption that you do that with your parents as well. And making dua for them. Always, all the time. Like, as much dua as you make for yourself, for your own parents, make that same dua for your teachers and their families. That, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is pleased with them, that He makes them amongst the slaves that are most pleasing to Him, that they protect them from all inward and outward harms, anything. All the du'as that you can muster out, make those same du'as for your teachers as well, every single one of them. Because they do so much for us that we can't even honestly, all of us in this room will never be able to thank them properly enough for all the stuff that they do. The least that we can do is to make dua for them for everything in their hereafter. That's, I think, pretty much it also.
Is there any questions?
Any questions? Yeah.
So in regards to example of the cup, dumping out the impurities and then scrubbing it out. So with that, there's a sort of disconnect that you might have with like popular culture or whatever that a lot of people are into, like their day-to-day lives. And then with that might come a sense of seeming like rigidness.
Mm-hmm.
So you all as veterans, how did you deal with that? Is like a disconnect, but also still being, it's not like who's this person, who do they think they are, or like, I don't know, being mean, not coming off as being mean or harsh. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense.
I don't think there's a problem with that. When people see that you have a slight disconnect, I think they love that and they respect that. What we mean by disconnect is, hey, a lot of things that happen on social media, all the movies and TV shows, yeah, I know nothing about it, right? And people, my close friends will be like, yeah, this guy's like 2 years behind in his memes. It's like, yeah, okay, and they find that in a sense like comforting. They're like, this person isn't bothered with all the junk that we see. But at the same time, right, I still have that group of friends. When something needs to be told to us, it will be told to us, right? Going out and reading these things and finding these things, those things are a waste of time. It's gonna make your brain hurt. There's so many things that happened in the past 4 years where I hear people talking about, and I'm like, I don't know what you guys are talking about. And as long as if he's telling me about it, I'm just like, I don't care, right? There's a difference between I'm not going to do that on my own personal time compared to, hey, people are talking about it, I can still sit and listen and learn through that, right? There's disconnecting from the sources, but you're still connected and still normal with your friends.
Yeah, just to give a quick example of that happened to me really recently actually. Some people in my family, they're really into all the Marvel movies with the superheroes, and I have no idea about any of those. I haven't seen any of them basically. And they're talking about all these characters and all these different people and stuff, and I was I have no idea what, in my head I was I have no idea what you guys are talking about. But there wasn't you don't want to be the person that's oh, astaghfirullah, you guys watch movies, that's terrible. What are you guys doing sitting all day? You do not want to be that person, because that's gonna leave a again we were saying, representing Islamic scholarship, you do not want people to think that all shuyukh and people like that are mean jerks, right? You do not want to give people that impression. So we were sitting there, they were talking about all the movies, and I was like, oh, I learned this recently. There's a character called Wasp, and it's a girl. And I was like, oh, there are girl superheroes? And they're like, yeah, blah, 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 blah. They were talking about it, and I was just like, oh, okay. And then I was like, yeah, there's talking about some other characters, you're talking about it with them, but you're not they think it's just you're having a normal conversation. Yeah, they know that you're not into that stuff and you don't do it yourself, but at the same time, they don't feel that, they don't feel the disconnect is bad. They know that that's not your thing, but they know that you won't look down upon them for that being their thing at the same time. Just to give another few not necessarily examples, but ways to help with that. Again, this goes back to having that strong relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because if you like actively working on your relationship with Allah, He will take care of all your other relationships, like for sure. Like when I started seminary, there were people, even like way back when I started hijab, like there were people that did not, in my family that did not like that. When I started seminary, there were people in my family that did not like that at all, right? They were just like, oh God. But then like, you start doing these things, you start like improving yourself, from what you learn in seminary, you like work on that relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now they're taking IOK extension classes. And like, when I first found that out, like I started crying because I was just like, I remember how much they didn't like the idea of me coming to seminary in the first place. Now they're taking IOK extension classes, and it's great. Like another quick example was one time I had an event to go to. I had 2 events to go to in the same day, and the first one I was wearing like an abaya, like black and everything, and I was wearing a black hijab as well. So I like looked like what other people might call like extreme. Wearing all black abaya and everything. So I was wearing that, and then at the event I had to go to with my family was like an Indian wedding, where everyone wears like decked out, everything, all that stuff. So I was like, I don't want to like, my parents would be happy if I wore the Indian clothes, so I brought like an extra thing in the car that I was gonna change into once I got to the wedding. My dad, he saw me and he was just like, oh, awesome, you look like a sheikha. And I was like, okay. And I was like, yeah, do you guys want me to go change? And he was like, no, you look great. You can stay in this outfit. So like, you'll notice those changes in them as well, that things that they might not have liked or been uncomfortable about before, like, they'll appreciate it and they'll like it more if you like, keep that like open like connection where you're still like a good person that they can have a relationship with. Not closing things off even more, because the more you close things off, the more they're gonna get distance from you and your deen also.
I'll add 2 points. MashaAllah, they covered most of everything. One of the things I thought about when you guys were talking is, like, sometimes we might not be able to, like, do all these amazing things, like, memorize Ascent to Felicity or, like, study that much. And sometimes that might be discouraging, like, okay, if I'm not fully, like, benefiting from all of that, should I stop? Do I not, like, deserve this knowledge and stuff? But subhanAllah, I think that like we should always keep in mind that whatever, if we're doing something for the sake of Allah, however little it is, we should hold on to it and keep striving for it. And inshallah, Allah will put barakah and increase it for us. So if you have the intention that, okay, I can't spend so much hours studying, but I could make it to class every day, I could listen to something or practice something in the car, then do that until inshallah you're able to like add all of those hours of studying. But don't ever think that like, okay, I'm not fully taking in all of the benefits, so I'll just stop until I'm free later. No, like if you're doing it now, try as much as you can to get all the benefits from it, and just keep increasing on top of that. And like subhanAllah, for me, when I first started IRK, like literally I heard about it one day and I came the next day, and I had already like picked my college schedule and I had classes in the morning and stuff, but I canceled all of them and I found classes in the afternoon. And subhanAllah, it's been that way like since then. Like I say, okay, I'm not gonna take any classes in the morning because that's my IOK time, and Allah just makes it so easy for me to find other classes and to like be able, like I have friends who go to school 5 days a week, like all day and stuff, but alhamdulillah, like I'm like, okay, I'm not gonna take anything in the morning, and Allah makes it so easy. Like some quarters I take just 2 days a week or 3 days a week. So if you have that intention, like I'm doing this for Allah, Allah will help you get through it and He'll make things easy for you. And just, if you're struggling with your studies, always remember to keep making dua, and inshallah you'll be able to do it. Yeah.
Just to add to that, and socially, like our shuyukh are there, right? The beauty of IOK and our teachers is that they're always open for us, and they're always giving us time, whether it be after school, after office hours, before school, like so many days. If I have any questions, they're always there. So if you guys have those questions, you have those disconnects, like they are there for us. especially, I mean, Sheikh Rahman is the dean, but he really has, I think, for the both of us, has really been there for us in doing my master's. And this was hard, but my intention was always that, okay, I have to do IOK and then figure out classes after. And that means I have class until 9:30 at night. But it's worth it, because every day I have that great morning with my teachers, learning about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, reminding myself about why I'm here, my purpose. So it definitely is really beneficial. But I feel like we're talking a lot, and I want you guys to, like, the reason why we don't have teachers here is so that you can be open with your struggles, your concerns, and like what you're debating between or whatnot. So please, the floor is open.
Yeah. So do you have any advice for me regarding college? Because alhamdulillah, I've been in a good environment for most of my life. I've been around Muslims, no public school, and I've been in IOK this is my 4th year here. So alhamdulillah, I've gotten a lot of benefit. And going into college starting this year was like a big shock. And it's hard to tolerate that environment sometimes. I just feel like trapped, like I just need to like get out of college. I really don't like it at all. I'm trying to figure out something that I would like to do, like a field. I didn't figure it out yet, but for the time being, do you have any advice dealing with that type of environment?
What year are you?
First year college.
I think one thing that definitely has helped me, and I think might be beneficial also, is to remind yourself about why you're going to college in the first place, and like, you know, your intention behind that as well. You know, for me, like throughout my whole life, whether it was undergrad or law school, like my intention has been, I want to please my parents. Like I want my parents to be, like I want to meet Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and be like, I did all this hard work so that I could please my parents. And so for me, that's something that made it worth it. Like for like a long time, I just, like my natural personalities, I never liked school. Whether it was like high school or middle school, elementary school, college, undergrad, like I never liked school or class, like you know, that kind of, that environment. So like for me, like what helped me like get through everything and like not only get through but like excel and do well and study hard and all that stuff is to remind you of why you're there. And it should be something that, you know, hopefully you want to, whatever it is, whether it's making money so that you can help support your family, whether it's pleasing your parents, whether it's, you know, doing something so that you can be an even more useful resource to the community. Like all these things with the intention of pleasing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala at the end, like they help, because, you know, even though you're in an environment that you might not like for the temporary moment, you're doing it because of the bigger picture that I want to please Allah through this. So for me, that's something that helped.
Could you expand on what exactly you're talking about that was frustrating?
The work is fine. It's mainly being around people who I don't like, and having professors who are trying to push certain ideologies and having to deal with just like non-Muslims in general.
What area of subject are you in right now? What do you
Just GEs. I don't have a field of study yet. I'm just trying to get through my GEs and transfer. And that's like part of the reason why I hate it so much, is because I don't really have a goal. Like, I don't have something that I'm interested in yet.
I think two super short things is all the people around you, you can really learn to just like zone them out.
Mm-hmm.
Also, use all the professors that are trying to like give weird ideas. Just take it as a fight. Like you don't need to don't fight with them. This is internal, like, oh, you said that, well I'm gonna say this and this. You said that, well I'm gonna say this and this. This is why you're wrong. This is why you're no. Just use it as an academic challenge for yourself.
Sorry. You can also use it as research, because having you there with you know, mashallah, gaining the Islamic background, you can be a resource for kids who are going into the college without that Islamic background. So if you're able to be like, take notes, like this is like what, you know, philosophies these philosophy professors are trying to teach, and you can like write articles inshallah about it. You can be a resource, you know, because you're dealing through it and you understand why it's wrong. But a lot of kids are going to college and they're just like soaking everything up like a sponge, and they don't have anything to really, you know, provide a buffer. So you can be like, this is what they're teaching, and you can really be a resource to other kids who are going through it, you know, so you can know what is being taught there.
Yeah, first semester my English teacher was very anti-religion, said a lot of offensive things, so I did fight with him a little bit. Huh?
Is your English teacher?
English teacher. So I fought with him. In the end, I wrote a paper bashing his ideologies. It was fun, but now it's like the class that I have right now, I don't really have an avenue to do that. There's no essays and stuff. And I have a gay professor, and it's just really annoying sometimes. So, like, I don't always have an avenue to like debate with them.
And I think that might kind of change your perspective in terms of like the college culture about how everyone's dating and drinking and stuff like that, is to really realize how blessed we are to be in Islam. Like every time I like hang out with my non-Muslim friends, I always come out like with my iman higher, because I'm like, wow, Islam is so great. Like, you know, we don't have to deal with any of the problems that they have to deal with, like hangovers, breakups, like all that stuff. So alhamdulillah, like it's also like a way for you to be like, wow, Islam is really just awesome, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala chose me to be in this religion and protect me from all this garbage.
Definitely.
But another thing would be to talk to our teachers about that. I think they definitely have so much insight and knowledge.
Yeah, I was gonna say, also like remember that, you know, alhamdulillah, we're learning this deen to improve ourselves, but also like if Allah decides to choose us to improve like the environment around us. So like make sure to continue to work on yourselves, so that when other people see it, they say like, okay, this person, it doesn't like if we cuss around her, so we won't do that. Or this person doesn't, you know, they don't like to gossip, so we won't do that around them. So like put your, like don't set your don't lower your standards for the people around you, but make them like raise their standards when you're around.
It's only temporary.
Well, yeah, it's not. That's the issue. It's not. You're gonna deal with that.
We ain't gonna
the rest of your
die.
life.
We're not gonna die.
That's
We're not gonna
you're gonna deal with that for the rest of your life. So you have to find a way to do it. Whether it's telling them, hey, you're wrong. This is why you're wrong. Arguing with them. If that's the way you want to do it.
Is that always the correct, the right
That's not always the correct way to do it. But you have to find a way to do it. You can't just say that I'm not going to deal with this. I'm going to block it off.
Yeah, if you're at a workplace, you can obviously tell your coworkers, hey, call it everything.
But kind of what Melissa was saying about an academic challenge, like you don't know maybe what you're going through right now, you'll be able to kind of also, Fatima was saying, like write an article or share that experience with people who are going to experience it later on, and it may be worse, but you being able to go through it and overcome it, that'll be beneficial to you and to others. Okay. Any other questions?
Give up some awkward silence to come up with any questions.
So like, for people that are working right now in our workforce, how did you go about like finding a job that was accommodating to your current schedule? So like you get offers, maybe like out of state or in a city far, far away. You're just like, oh man, but I also want to do IOK in the morning. So how did you go about kind of finding a career that was accommodating?
You could be a nurse. 3 days a week.
I don't want to see a nurse, man.
You work Saturday, Sunday, and Monday, and come back here for the rest of the week. And you want
Yeah, for my internship, I go 12 to 5:30, and then I miss Wednesdays for IOK. But it's hard.
I mean, reality is most of the jobs are 8 to 5. It's very hard to find a job that's going to be accommodating to the schedule. And unless you want to work in IBM and find a remote job, which you can in your field, and limit yourself to that. Dr. Yeltsin doesn't have a remote gig. Who? Doesn't. 100% remote. Startup in this company.
Yeah, I think it really depends on your field, because I feel like for certain like you know, software engineering stuff, like there's I don't know what, but like it seems like there are more opportunities to work remotely. For me, the tiers that I took off, one of them I was working, but I had a flexible boss that let me make my own schedule. And a lot of, some of the law field is like that, where especially if you work in a small firm, you make your own schedule. Like as long as you get what you need to get done, so it depends on field. What's your field?
It's informatics, so not really similar to treatment, but yeah, it's on the school ICS, so like computer science and stuff.
The best thing for that practically is a lot of them, they don't start at 8, they start at like 9, 10, 11. You can just be like, if it's something you want to do and you get a good job, I mean, that's a sacrifice you're willing to do. Maybe I leave like at 10:30 and rush there. Maybe they have one day workout, but whatever. That's something to talk about, when you get an offer then, Don't tell them about IOK before you get the offer. Get the offer and then tell them, yo, I'm doing this. How can we work this out? I've had an experience where I told them before, and I realized they didn't give me a job because I mentioned IOK.
Don't mention that.
Until you get the offer, and you're talking to the hiring manager about it, they won't say it. Also, like the last two questions have been kind of very personal, maybe not ideal for a panel. So we're all here, Some things obviously our teachers haven't gone through, like how to deal with a job and go to study at the same time. But many of us have. Just because we're all the way up there, doesn't mean we're.
Yeah, that's something I wanted to throw in a plug for. Also, for us to get these, they're still going to be here, but for us, even though we might not be here at IOK every single day after this year, which is really sad. But IOK is especially seminary is our baby. We will make time for any one of you. If you guys need help with literally anything, like we said with the Arabic, or if you need FIP tutoring, or if you need help with translating something, get our numbers, get our email addresses, whatever. A lot of you probably already do, but really reach out to us. We want to help. We want to pay it forward. We want the next graduating class to be better than our class. Honestly, genuinely, we really would love that. So whatever we can do, please reach out to us. We're here.
Sorry, while they were talking, I just wrote down a few quick things. If you're driving, Yasha Qadi Sira, 100% recommend. Probably one of the best things I've done outside of class. Once you get to it, after Mishkat, then listen to the Durus of Muwatta by Sheikh Sa'id al-Kamali. It's all in Arabic, but it's very good. In your normal day-to-day, consult your teachers. And when we talk about giving respect and care to our teachers, Sheikh Farhan will never let you pick his bag, whatever. He always has his coffee anyways, so you can't do that for you. But one thing that maybe you can do is, before they come to class or they have a certain book, just set that up for them. Do little things that you can to help them out.
You like to bake goods, make yourself.
Yeah, just like a trend we're talking about, a lot of people don't like the idea of religious people. Be that changing factor. Be you, but just be yo, I'm me, but I'm also religious and pious. And that's the way to really get your friends to the friend circle you already have. Maybe tell some of them to come here, but at least help work on them. And at the same time, you'll become a huge resource for them. You want to be the person where if you have your same 5, 10, 15 people of friends that you're always talking to, you have 7 group chats, you should be that person that you can come to them with, oh, hey, what's this? Oh, hey, what's that? What about this? Can I do this? Can I do that? Can I do that? Can I do that? They text you at 2 a.m., bro, can I do this while I'm fasting? Another thing when it comes to reading, just take a buddy and just read to each other. Read with the spiel, do all of that. That's one of the things that I think helped all of us the most. Were we were forced to read together. We didn't have a teacher. We were just you guys need to read and correct each other. But large amounts. I think another thing, especially when you get to the coming years, is whatever you read, don't be afraid to argue and challenge it. Is Imam Quduri right? Is Imam Quduri right? No. You feel free to argue with him. Is the rule in your grammar book right? No, argue with it. right? Is the rule in your sub book, should it be like that or should it be like that? Argue with it, you know? A lot of the issues people have with hadith or with commentaries or with Quran compilation or the history of hadith, you know, read your commentaries. You know, I honestly think if you were to read the commentaries of Mishkat, Mirqat al-Mafatih, you can literally just slash down every like Orientalist argument. That guy, like, his pen is like a weapon. And the last thing, recruit, right? Right? Every time I see people from UCI here, I think, oh, I helped them come here, and then they tell me, no, I came here from another reason. But, you know, I like to think, you know, I had some little thing with them. Yeah, I think one thing to highlight is, we're obviously telling you guys to make sure that you know your fiqh and hadith and all that stuff in and out. And people will ask you, and whatever you do know, drop an answer on it. But at the same time, whatever you don't know, be very clear, hey, this is something I do not know.
What if you, what if you already studied another field? You should just stick to that one.
What do you mean?
Like, because I know we're going to teach you the Hanafi field, which I'm learning as well, but I've already studied like the comprehensive Shafi'i method. So it's like, and I've been practicing that all my life. It's like, should I bother to make a change or just learn it and learn the Hanafi method?
I mean, if you're here to learn it, I mean, learn it.
No, obviously,
yeah.
Like in terms of adopting it,
that's
something.
Yeah, that's something. That's something for you to talk to the teachers about. Yeah. If there's stuff you don't know, I mean, just be like, yo, I don't know. And you know, you can give them some resources. I can get back to you. But like the basic things, you know, the and salat, that should just be like, just. Somebody tells you, how many? I got this many goats. Do I have to give zakat? You know, even zakat, you should know like that. Even with goats and camels and sa'i and crops and business and all that stuff. Hajj, you know, maybe the janayah because you haven't experienced half of them. You know, it's a little weird, but you know, maybe slave laws you don't need to have on the top of your head. Anyway.
What?
Alright.
I didn't know these topics, dude.
Okay, so yeah.
Was there ever a point in emailing or messaging the teachers that you felt like you were bothering them or burdening them? Like, if you go over like maybe Ezra with that, is there like a point where it's like too much?
I think our teachers have dealt with that enough where if you were texting at a weird time or you were just like talking to them for 5 hours straight, they'll tell you, yo, like, I'll get back to you, you know. I don't think that should be.
We shouldn't be worried about that.
Too much.
And you can also like just by interacting with your teachers. Like all of our teachers are very different in terms of how they respond, what they respond with, how quickly they respond, all that stuff too. So I think also just getting a feel for that will help you in terms of like who to ask what when.
Then they get a private question. Like, you really use that question once.
We're all going to be TT. Come on, guys. Just gave you. I don't know.
Also going to be an outfit with me or whatever. For this teacher appreciation dinner. So I would dress up as one of those dudes.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I have another outfit I bought from this one. I want to be one. You're down?
I just understand.
I guess if you say, sit down. I'm going to go get this stuff. It's set up to be able to set up.
But
You gotta change this thing.
I know. I realize it's a lot hard.
kind of,
No, it's not bad.
because like, even though it's like,
And
and then I remember going in, it was just like, one guy got out of my class and started walking outside, and I was so like, ran into the and I was there, and I was like, whoa, but like, I did like conversation with her. And I was there when like,
Forget that.
who was there at that time? It was before I was
similar to you at times. That's why it's like, I guess last month.
It was small, like I went to the yeah. And like I went like president of the
And after class, you just don't need to.
But it's temporary, like you can count for a year and a half. I never for a year, but I did a lot of classes. It's like a year.
There's more happening. This is, it's split up. So it's still up to like what's in the
Whenever you get involved, like what
So also
the guy is willing to give a waste of time. I just paused out, like I wouldn't participate.
you're on one meeting.
Oh, yeah, actually,
Yeah, we I think that's in the second grade. Like, maybe doing like some we just randomly calculate, oh, what about this thing?
Did we come back or we're still banned?
You were never banned, you just politely asked.
I felt rejected. Alhamdulillah wa salatu wa salamu ala Rasulillah. May Allah accept from you all and allow us to finish the school year on a good note and to renew our intentions. As we've studied, it's good for us to reflect over our intentions before we do an action, while we do the action as we conclude it, and to always make it a pure intention for His sake, trying to gain His favor and His pleasure, and trying to grow in this tradition of learning and teaching and sharing with others. I don't know what was discussed while we were gone. May Allah make it beneficial for those who heard it, and may Allah forgive the ones who spoke and accept from them and reward them abundantly. What we spoke about earlier in the morning for those who are not here were some of the concerns and ideas about the crowdfunding event, which we're going to have on Saturday. And one of the things, the highlights that I mentioned is one of the reasons is to see us outside of the classroom, so we can all interact with one another outside of the classroom. And you can always benefit from people who have studied and who have lived longer than you, from their life experience and from their knowledge. Try your best to get that which is good from them and stay away and refrain from anything that may be negative. That's really all I had to share. May Allah bless you all and accept from you, and I hope that you guys can recruit more students so we can meet more lovely folks like yourselves, and then we can all benefit and exchange ideas and grow together.
Studying in Medina, you hear tons of pieces of advice. Some stick, some don't. One of the most valuable pieces of advice, and then there's a costume party. One of the most valuable pieces of advice that I got, that I'd like to share with you, something that applies specifically to Talab al-Ilm, but also applies to life in general. But specifically with regards to Talab al-Ilm, and I think I've shared this with some of my students, is that Talab
Talab al-ilm is like grapes, right? How do you eat grapes?
Just gotta grow first.
One at a time.
One at a time, right? Nobody eats grapes by putting a whole bunch in their mouth. And Talab al-ilm is not something that you can just do in one shot, in 1 year, in 1 month, in one workshop, in one seminar, in one weekend, and then khalas, yani I have reached the pinnacle or whatever I need to get, right? This is something that is slow and steady and consistent. And the intake of knowledge has to be one grape at a time. And it's only through that consistency that you can get through the entire bunch. So when you are slow and consistent and paced out through your studies, you will get to the end and you will reach that ghaya that you're intending for. But if you just think that you're going to be able to just swallow it all and take it all in one shot in 1 year, you're only fooling yourself. So be patient, be persistent, be consistent, be sincere, and always continue to work hard.
Bismillah, alhamdulillah, wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulillah wa ala alihi wa sahbihi You know, I know all of you have different schedules, different obligations, different responsibilities. Whether it's work or school or whatever the case may be, right? And we understand that, obviously some days students can make it, other days students can't make it, whatever the case may be. But I think one thing I would suggest is that whatever time that you can dedicate, for example, you might not be able, because of your schedule, to come to school every single day, right? But whatever time that you do dedicate, right? Truly dedicate that time. Come with dedication on that day, right? Don't come like, I don't want to be here, this and that, or like I'm tired. Whatever time you're making time out of your day to come, just dedicate that time, right? Because if you do that, like whether, and I'm not saying only come 1 day a week, but I'm saying if you come 1 day a week or 2 days a week, right? Because that's the only time that you can dedicate, but you truly dedicate that time, right? You come ready to learn and realizing that you're following in this noble path. You'll see that Allah will put barakah in that knowledge that you've acquired in those 4 hours or in those 8 hours, for that week. As long as you just come dedicated, come ready to learn. The second thing I would mention is that, I know many times, perhaps you get tired or this is a lot of information, or at home you get stressed out, like I have so much seminary work to catch up on, or assignments, or this and that, right? Look, we understand that you guys have limited time, you guys have your responsibilities and whatnot, right? But don't forget throughout the process just to make sure that there's a portion of the day or there's, times in the week where you're enjoying it, right? We want you to enjoy it because that's what will keep you hungry, right? Sheikh Tareen mentioned this is not a process that stops, right? It hasn't stopped for any one of us. It's not like I'm done. I mean, we just keep reading fiqh, right? Even the stuff we read it over again. And the stuff we haven't read, we read. Like there's always more to learn. I mean, you can ask the students that are in their last year, in their 5th year, right? Our teachers, the way they described it to us is that, when you first learn, you become like Shaykh al-Islam. Or you think you became Shaykh al-Islam, right? And then as you get further in the path, you kind of realize you kind of get a little more humble, right? And then as you get further and further in the path, and I'm not going to say on the end because there is no end, right? The end is the grave, essentially, right? But as you keep going, the further you keep going, you just realize how ignorant you are and how much there is out there that you're ignorant of, right? But just enjoy the process. Enjoy it. Don't stress out, I haven't done this, I'm falling behind. Okay. At one point, everyone's falling behind, got ahead, whatever, right? Just try your best and enjoy the process, right? Because that's what's going to keep you hungry. And then the last thing I'll mention is that, we're a few days away from the month of Ramadan. The purpose of all of this is to get us closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala so that we can understand the Quran, right? So that when we worship Allah, we can do so upon certainty, right? There's a level of joy and happiness and ease and comfort that comes when you're worshiping Allah upon certainty, right? Many people, when they like fast or pray, like just general people, they're worried because they don't know if it counts. Did I do this right? Did I do that right? I'm just going to go with the process, right? But alhamdulillah, whatever year you're in, you've learned a certain amount. You're worshiping Allah to a certain extent on certainty, right? But the way we are in Ramadan, it's whether you're in the 5th year or the 1st year, right? This Ramadan can't be the same as last year. It simply can't. There has to be a change, right? There has to be something that's different, something that's better, something that's more, that happens with more passion. It doesn't mean that the ibadah in terms of number has to be more, right? It doesn't mean you have to pray more rakats. It doesn't have to mean you have to technically make more dua. It just means it has to have more purpose, that each action has to have more purpose, right? We have to feel like that. Right? So we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to accept from us and to allow us to benefit from the month of Ramadan.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وبعد. There are so many different thoughts and ideas to share, and I really don't know where to start from. And so what I'm going to say might sound like just like a running stream of consciousness, but that's okay. First and foremost, having motivation behind studying, especially when you're studying knowledge and we're studying things that will inshallah bring you closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that will increase your love for the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, it's always important to remain motivated. And one of the most powerful motivating factors is to constantly remind yourselves of all of the blessings, all of the reward, all of the virtue associated with seeking knowledge. That there are so many verses in the Quran, there are so many ahadith of the Prophet ﷺ that talk about the virtues, the rewards, the blessings of simply being on this path. And remembering that every single moment you spend in pursuit of this knowledge, whether it's waking up in the morning, your commute here, you're sitting here in class, you're reviewing and studying at home, you're conveying that knowledge, every single moment of that is a source of barakah and blessing in your lives. Right? Everything is something that will bring you closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So constantly keep yourself motivated by renewing your intention and looking at these ahadith again. Anytime you find a dip in your motivation, go back to these ahadith and read the words of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And these are the words of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam encouraging you to seek this knowledge. And that's something that inshallah will bring that zeal, that enthusiasm back. Intention. Have a proper intention in mind. Have a proper objective and goal in mind. And just to build off what we were saying, that yes, all of you are doing several different things in your lives. Whether you're in school, you have family responsibilities, you're working, whatever it may be. But whatever you have decided to undertake and whatever responsibility you've taken on, try to do that with as much perfection as possible. Right? Try to do that with ihsan. So anything that you're studying, whether it be the 1st year, the 2nd year, the 3rd year, whatever it is, try to do that with a level of excellence, with a level of perfection. That whatever text, whatever book I'm studying, whatever lesson I'm engaged in, I want to become a master in that lesson. Right? I want to be able to master this book. So for example, all of you are studying Lisan al-Quran. Your goal should be, I should be a master of this book. After I study it, I can teach it to somebody. Right? I'm going through Qasas al-Nabiyyin. I should be able to teach this book to someone after I'm done. I know all the vocab, I know the grammar, etc. And especially for the 1st year students, it's kind of hard to maintain motivation because we're dealing with a lot of language and grammar and morphology and a lot of Arabic. And for a lot of people, learning a new language is not something very easy. And so our teachers, they would always remind us that, look, there are, and Sheikh Ahmed actually reminded me of this, is that there's 2 different types of knowledge when it comes to seeking ilm. There are knowledge that are considered to be tools, right? They bring you to a certain place. And then there's another type of knowledge that's actually the objective of what you want to study. So the objective of what we want to study is the Quran and the Sunnah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. That's what we want to unlock and open and dive into the treasures and oceans of that. But in order to get there, we have to gain the tools. And the tools to getting that is the Arabic language. And that's why the scholars throughout history have put so much importance and emphasis on learning the language. And that's something that perhaps we have not done a really good job in conveying, but there is nothing more important than becoming
an expert in the language, for a lack of better words. Like really, really knowing the Arabic language in a very comprehensive manner. Because that's what's going to unlock all of these books of fiqh and hadith and tafsir and sirah and whatever else that may be out there. So really, really focus on perfecting your language skills. And that takes time, that takes dedication, takes commitment, takes a lot of steadfastness and patience. But as long as you maintain consistency, you'll get it. If you're sincere, you're consistent, that tool, you will develop it. And just like any tool, it requires practice. The more you practice, the more you engage, the more you will learn, inshallah. And you'll notice the benefits of that as you move on throughout the program. And also, again, just take advantage of the opportunity you've been given. Right? All of us sitting up here, we had to travel abroad. And all of us can share our experiences of traveling abroad. It's not very easy. Right? Living in a foreign country for 6, 7, mashallah, 12 years is not a very easy process. And you know, a lot of times you might have these like very idealistic visions regarding these Islamic institutions across the world, and we think they're like places in the awliya and holy places, but the reality is quite the opposite, yes?
No comment.
No comment.
There are some awliya.
Oh, definitely, but it's not like this like, people have a rosy picture of institutions throughout the world. And they say one of the sicknesses of students of knowledge is that they have this like sickness of whatever place they're in, they start criticizing it. And they start thinking that the grass is greener on the other side. And that is something that our teachers will tell us about. And you actually see students, they would jump from one madrasa to the other. They would do 1 year in one madrasa, the second year in another, the third in another, and after that, they're gone. Because they can't find anything and they can't stick to it. Right? Our teachers would say the institution, the program, does not really matter. What matters is your own sincerity, your own dedication, and what you benefit from that. The institution, the program is just giving you the tools, it's giving you opportunity, it's giving you a chance. But it's your own effort, your own sincerity, the acceptance from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that's going to allow you to progress. So, you know, inshallah, we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make all of you among the true students of knowledge, inshallah, to increase all of you in knowledge and, most importantly, in amal, in action. And we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to bless us and to bless the program and to give all of us ikhlas and istiqamah. Any questions for us? Any comments for us?
كتبت لكم شيئا.
Can I read it? Yeah. Let me do my announcements real quick. Announcement number 1. Right. Everyone has been sent a faculty evaluation. Right. Please fill that out. That's going to help us improve ourselves and help us improve the program, inshallah. I know there was a concern about why is it asking for your email. If you feel uncomfortable sharing your email address, you can write a fake email address, no problem. Alright. Second thing, but please do fill that out. Right. I think the deadline is by tomorrow. But please do fill that out. It's going to be very beneficial for us. Because mashallah, we come in here, we talk, we teach, and we need to hear back from you guys. What can we improve upon and what can we do better to serve? And that's why we're here. We are your servants, inshallah. The second is re-enrollment. It's very important that all of you re-enroll as soon as possible so we can plan properly for next year and we can prepare properly for next year in terms of the curriculum and dividing up the classes and scheduling the teachers and the faculty. It's very, very important that we have that information as soon as possible. We're having an open house this Saturday for new students. There's about 30 people that have RSVP'd so far. It would be nice to have some of you there if you can. It's from 1:30 to 3:30 or 1:30 to 2:30. If you can be there and kind of like share your experience with them as well and give some tadreeb and recruit. So if you're able to make it out, please do so.
And if you can't, make sure you send somebody in your place that's going to take a seat in the program next year.
Then we have a summer session. I believe the email's been sent out, it's been announced, but our summer session will start after Eid, and we'll go till August 2nd, so it's about 8 weeks during the summer. And the summer retreat that we're planning this retreat, mashallah, spearheaded by our respected he left the room, but I think his stuff is still here, but inshallah, we would like to see everyone there. That is an opportunity for us to at least get together outside of the classroom setting in a more relaxed, informal environment, and we'll make it as beneficial as possible, inshallah.
sorry if I get stuttery, but الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة اللهم صل وسلم على خير المرسلين وعلى آله وأصحابه الكريم هكذا بدأنا دروسنا القديم هذا مسجد ومدرسة لا له مثال ولا مشابه لكي يسابقه أقول كما قد قال الشافعي هذا دار الفضل والفضلاء قد قلت لشيخنا نعمان سابقا اللهم انظر إلينا رأي دار الأرقم آيوك اللهم يا فتاح علمنا من الغيب يا مدير جزاك الله خيرا وأهلك وأمك أبدا لا رويدا فأوصاني بشيء لا أفهم احفظ الكتب الأربعة السماوية وعمران الذي وازره جاء بآيات القرآن لكل مثل نحوية له هيبة بالقرآن لا ترى عليك غلط وخلط إذا حضر ففرحان فرحنا بفرحه افرح بفراسة الفقيه الفارسي اللهم فرش فردوسه بفرائد فرفيرا فرفشة لا فركشة أسألكم بسؤال قد سئلنا أين مولد الذي بعمله رمينا فإبراهيم أبو الرسول هو فما وإلا الكردستاني صلوا عليهما جميعهم الشيخ أحمد الكردي السائل ففي كل كتب وجد الخطر فكيف فكيف أمدحه بخوف أشعره ففي لفظي وبيتي ما أوجعه بل والبل كالشجر تحتها الظل حكى لنا القصص الجميلة فأتوه بحلاوة وحلوم فدوء تبسمه ليلا كالقمر والنجوم حضرنا جبريل لسنة واحدة لا شك لدينا أنه من المالكية فقيه أصولي عالم تجاني فالآخر ما سمعتم هذا مني من أول أساتذة جميل لكل جملة قرأت فإليه مدين ثم علمنا فرائضا ومواريث مع أن آلة الحاسبة في الهواتيف نعم لنا شيخ من الأبدال عمر قريشي دكتور كمال وعمر أيضا ذو قصائد في الفقه والحديث قد جهد ثم الديواني يحب ثنتين أصول الفقه والتصوف خيرين هو وعمر حسين هو وعمر حسين قد علم معاملة الضعيف والفقير أن نرحم ففي القديم سهيل ومنيب نبكي ل5 وأماننا 5 سنوات فكيف جاءت 5 زملاء أنفسنا أين فاتت فمالي ومالي من حزن وبكاء ف5 و6 و7 هاد فعلينا جميعا شيئان دعاء وإحسان إلى العليم الرحمن كونوا حرصاء على الدين والعلم أدعو الله أن يدخل أساتذتنا الجنة أولا للآخرين
لا فض فوك جزاك الله.
All right. Any other questions? Comments? Forts. All right.